Hello and welcome to Flix and Chill with me, Luke. Today I have a very special guest on my show. Meredith is here, so why don't you take it away and introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Meredith Patterson, and I have a podcast, Meredith Patterson Podcast, here in America. I'm American, if you can't tell from my accent. Originally from California, and at 18 years old, I moved to New York to star on Broadway. I thought was my dream, and I got to do it, and which is pretty great. I was danced and performed on Broadway and television and film. Gosh, for 25 years in the entertainment industry, I've been on TV shows like the soap opera All My Children. I was in Princess Diaries 2, the Disney movie, as Lady Alyssa. So that was that.
Mhm.
That's the accent that I had on that, and it was not my real accent. Would thank you for those of you who have come up to me over the years and said they thought I was really English. I'm very flattered.
Oh, nice.
But yes, I've done television and film, and now I do podcasts. I'm a producer. I have two books, and I'm a mom of two. A
Hmm.
husband, or my husband is in the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, which is a pretty big band, and I'm just loving life here in 2025.
You've done so much and you look barely 25. It's amazing.
It's the
Like
lighting.
this is on audio only podcast, so obviously nobody can see you besides me. But like you don't look nearly like that. I don't even gonna guess any age because like you don't
I'm
look.
gonna be 50 this year,
You
Luke. I'm gonna be
don't genuinely.
50.
I'm not even trying to flatter you in any way, shape, or form. You don't even look like when you said, "Oh yeah, I lived here before we pressed the recording." You said, "Oh yeah, like I lived in California until I was 18, then and lived in New York for 18 years." I'm like, wait, what? This doesn't align because
Wait,
like I
what? Oh,
see
you're so
somebody.
sweet.
I see somebody on my screen that looks kind of like, maybe 30 something. And I'm like, wait, 18, that's 36. What? I was so
You're so
confused.
sweet. And I know those of you who are listening can't see that I just have like a lot of lighting because I'm in the entertainment industry. So I have like lighting that you can't see all my wrinkles and stuff. But I do. Yes, I think that's so sweet. And I never wanted to be one of those older women that was like, oh, I look 30, like, oh,
Mhm.
just, ha ha, flatter me. And or I'll lie about my age and tell people that I'm not my age. But I've
Yeah.
had people, yeah, I don't really look my age. My mother never looked her age either. She looked like 10 years younger than what she was. But no, I'll be 50 this year. So it's a big year for me. I feel excited, but I think 50 in our day and age doesn't feel like a death sentence.
Yeah,
Um,
it
it,
definitely seems like it's like, 50 is the new like 40 or like some if you look like you, like 35 really.
you're so sweet. Well, I plan to live. I have two young boys, and
Mhm.
we were just talking about, Mom, you're going to be 50, and how long do you want to, like how old do you think you're going to be? And I said, I'm going to be 100. I'm absolutely that's my plan. So I'm halfway there. I have a lot
It's
to learn
achievable.
and
It is very
a lot of
achievable.
movies to watch. Yes, I still have a lot of movies to watch.
Same.
Do you like that segue?
No, that's honestly same. Okay, couple of points because I like so first 18 years you're originally from New York, correct?
Originally from
No, from
California, and
California.
then
Sorry. Yeah,
no, that's
California.
okay.
Yeah.
Both coasts. I've lived on both coasts for 18 years. I moved out of California,
Hmm. Hmm.
Pleasant Hill, California, which is exactly what it sounds like, a very pleasant small town. At least that's what
Okay.
it was, when I moved. And I moved to New York in the blizzard of 1994,
Ah.
and it was so cold. And being a California girl, I was not used to that
Hmm.
weather.
Hmm.
The East Coast winters, if you've ever been in them, boy, it's not fun. But I remember being like, I'm going to be on Broadway, and so I'm going to brave these winters.
Hmm.
And it's funny because I moved here to Montana, which is where I live now. I've been here 5 years. We moved during the pandemic
Hmm.
because we were living in LA with our two kids who were very young at the time, and then moved to Montana to kind of wait out the pandemic, and we ended up staying here,
Hmm.
which is great. It's a beautiful place. But a lot of people here, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're not going to make it. You're a California girl. It's so cold. Like, welcome to, you're going to be so just shaking the whole time." And I'm like, "Have you ever been in New York in the winter? It's
Hmm.
so bad. It's that wet cold versus the dry cold." So,
Yeah.
I did 18 years in New York City,
Hmm.
was on Broadway, did some amazing things on Broadway, off Broadway, TV and film.
Hmm.
And I had my child in 2012, and my husband and I were going to stay there. And then I remember being down in the subway with my young son, who was
Hmm.
like 6 weeks old or 8 weeks old at the time. And people were like, "Oh, what a cute baby," and all this stuff. And I just got so New Yorker on them. I was like, "Get the fuck away from my child!" Like I just was like, I totally started getting mama bear, and
Yeah.
I was like, "I can't fucking take it." And I came, I went up I went home and I said, "I'll fucking stay here for you with my husband." But
Hmm.
I have to go because I can't stand the dirt. I can't stand it's too noisy. Like
Hmm.
all of a sudden my brain switched
Hmm.
to I have to be able to touch grass, as the kids say nowadays.
Hmm.
Um, and I just wanted to get out of New York. So that took us to LA, which I had done some television and film there. But I'm a California girl, but I'm a Northern California girl. So I'm near San Francisco. That's where I was raised. So if
Okay.
you are from California, sometimes you are, and this is a musical theater reference that if anybody's in musical theater, they will get it. Nobody else probably will.
Hmm.
It's the Sharks and the Jets. So that's a West Side Story reference.
Yes.
So one city is, it's like, oh, that's why I never went down to LA. I was like, I'm going to go to New York. That's just the way it's going to be.
Hmm.
But when I moved to LA, it was like, oh, you're a California girl and you live in LA now. Okay. It's like I went to the dark side, but I loved it. And we were there for a while and we really loved that city. But the pandemic kind of changed it all.
Hmm.
And sometimes, that's where I go. Sometimes life takes you into different places that
Hmm.
you never expected. So now I live in Whitefish, Montana,
Wow.
which I never even heard of.
Me neither.
And yeah, nobody has. Everyone's like, "Where do you live?" And I'm like, "Listen, it's fine.
Hmm.
It's great." And I can, we live more in a remote world nowadays. I mean, you and I are talking from you're in Scotland and I'm in
Correct.
Montana, which
Hmm.
is amazing to me.
Yes.
And we're talking on a computer. So there you go. You can do that. So
Amazing. Technology is
yes,
just amazing, isn't it?
it is. It is. It really is crazy. And, doing a podcast is something I did. My first podcast was called Confessions of an Actress.
Hmm.
Um, and that was a little limiting. And I ended it last year, meaning like the topic, I couldn't talk about other things I was interested in because it was very centered around the entertainment industry and things like that. And
Hmm.
so I did that podcast for about 7 years. And if you go back and listen to that podcast, I go through the pandemic during it, go through
Okay.
Black Lives Matter. We go
Hmm.
through all those moments. And it's crazy because I just talk about it all on there. So it turned kind of political and turned kind of, civil rights, which I love because I
Hmm.
almost couldn't not talk about it. But now having the Meredith Patterson podcast, which I thought I'm going to name it after myself, I guess. Nobody knows who I am, but maybe they will someday. It's opened up my side of things and being able to talk to
Hmm.
a lot of just anybody I want to, which is great.
Yep.
From
Yep.
Montana.
Exactly. It's like, like world is really global nowadays. Like, so it doesn't matter where you are, as long as you have an internet and a computer,
Yes.
everything is kind of limitless.
Which
So,
can be a good thing and a bad thing.
100%.
We got our keyboard
Unfortunately.
warriors who can comment on everything, and you're like, Okay,
And bunch of trolls. Like, you say keyboard warriors, I say trolls. Like, we do not feed them. Like, we try
yes, we
not to
don't feed
feed
the
the trolls.
trolls.
Yes.
I think it's like now everybody can feel what it feels like to be a celebrity. I'm not a celebrity, but I've been around celebrities, and that's one of the things that they go, you never prepared for the trolls. You
Hmm.
think even the most likable, amazing celebrities, I always say Julie Andrews because she's just
Hmm.
perfect, practically perfect in every way. And everyone thinks, oh, no one must hate her. I'm sure she
Hmm.
has trolls trolling her.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And unfortunately, like it's the unfortunate wisdom of today, I'm guessing. It's not even a wisdom, but it's when you made it as a like online creator or like online personality or even like some sort of like a person of notice when
Hmm.
you receive your first death threat.
Oh
When you
God.
receive your first like oh I or one of those mean comments, I hope you die of cancer or something like that. That's when you know, oh, my video or my podcast broke through not just my fans, some sort of like line of, hundreds of people or whatever, but oh, it must have broken through some other ones where like when you receive the first proper quote unquote proper feedback, which is not a feedback, obviously.
Proper
That's
feedback. So when that
Yep.
happens to me, which it hasn't happened yet, when I receive a death threat or I hope you die,
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm gonna frame it and I'm gonna put congratulations, you've made it,
Yeah,
and I'll put it
exactly.
up on my wall with all my posters and be like, I did it. No, it is a terrible thing to
It
like
is
know
very
that.
terrible, but it's like
Yeah.
unfortunately that's like it's so bizarre that this is the day and age we live in, where because when you make like videos, podcasts, whatever, right? You just put it out and like you have like tens of views and then hundreds and maybe then thousands if you're lucky. And then like, and
Yeah.
most of the comments are like positive and like encouraging. And every once in a while there's a this person is like, "Oh, I don't really like you." Okay, okay, fine. And then there will be the one is like, "I fucking hate you. I wish you and I wish you die tomorrow." And I'll be like, "All right, I made it."
I'm like,
I haven't had
wow.
it yet, but I've seen it happen to many
Well, good.
creators.
That was my next question. I was gonna ask, have you made it? Have you received the death threat or the I wish you'd fucking die?
I'm not
That's
that big
off.
yet.
Not that big yet.
No,
That's awful. That's
it
horrible.
is.
But I try to flip it
Mm-hmm.
to something. How sad a person must you be to be able to write that?
Mm-hmm.
So on my podcast, I just started doing mental health Mondays
Mm-hmm.
because I used to do wellness Wednesdays, which is, I mean, I kind of laugh at myself with like a hashtag, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like so kind of hokey and holistic, but it is something that is really, I feel like, especially with now being global, that people have this comparison as death and, blah, blah, blah. There's so many things like where you're so open to so many more people than you would if you were just in this small town
Yep.
of
Yep.
Whitefish, Montana, you're exposed to all of that. So if you're online and you're doom scrolling or you're seeing all of it and you're like, fuck you and I wish you'd die.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, wow. And then maybe these people, let's hope that they go back and they see the notifications for that and they're like, wow, I'm terrible. But it's really more about them than you, especially if all you've done is like put out a podcast episode or you just exist in the
Mm-hmm.
world.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
know,
No, it's honestly it's insane. But like let me take a few steps back because I have a very basic question. So you as a person who is originally from California and then, for 18 years and then you moved to New York for 18 years,
hmm
from your experience, uniquely yours, what is the major difference between those two? Because obviously that's so like, like besides like the like weather and I know the attitude of people, like, New Yorkers supposed to be the more like a brazen ones, but they are more willing to help. That's
yeah.
my understanding. So like, but in your experience, what's the like besides those two, what is the like the most bizarre or most like oh this is why New York is so New York and this is why California is so California for better or worse.
Yes, it's a good question. And the first thought I had was the pace, the
Okay.
energy.
Mm-hmm.
So the energy when you're in California, depending on, I mean, even like a city like San Francisco, which doesn't have that same energy as New York at all. It's sort of like
Mm-hmm.
a mini version.
Mm-hmm.
The pace of people in New York is so energetic and I would never say this that they weren't. I mean, there are mean people in New York, I know that that's kind of like a stereotype. Like people are like, get out of my way. All
Yeah.
those things. I'm walking here.
Yeah.
But the truth is that they're just ambitious. They have shit to do and you're in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like they're trying to be mean. They're just like, listen, get to the point.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I would think about like the first time I was there and I was ordering a sandwich at a deli. And I'm a little more, at the time was just a little more chill. And my pace was a little slower and I was trying to decide what I wanted while I was there at the counter.
Mm-hmm.
No. New Yorkers want you to figure that shit out, get up to the counter and say, this is what I want. Boom, 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 boom. Thank you very much. Don't chit chat. And in California, there's this, hey, hi. Oh my gosh, isn't it a great day? New Yorkers are like, let's go, let's go. So to
Yeah.
some people that seems brazen and mean,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really just that they have shit to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
it's and that energy, there's so much shit to do in New York, and that energy that's there is so it's something I miss sometimes. But I was there in my 20s and 30s, and as I had kids, that pace changed for me internally.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know people do it, but for me, raising kids in New York City was a tough idea to wrap my brain around
Okay.
unless I had a lot of money because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to be around all that pace down in the subway and, on the streets. I wanted to be in my car,
Hmm.
in my bougie penthouse.
I see.
So I say that's the difference is that yeah, and I feel like the culture, the melting pot of people that are in New York City is so wonderful
Hmm.
and such a good education for people who maybe don't ever experience a lot of different people, different religions, different ethnicities, different cultures, different way of life, different accents, if you will.
Hmm.
If you come from like the middle of the country and you've never left that town, go to New York City and experience that for a weekend and just be like, whoa, you either get it or you don't ever want to be around it again.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that sounds fascinating. I think, see, this is the thing, right? So for me, what sounds like New Yorkers are more like Europeans in a way, because
Yeah.
like where I come from, so like we are kind of the same in Czech Republic. We are like straight to the point, or like most of the time we just go straight to the point because we don't want to waste any your time, my time, nobody's time, right? And here, I've come across that apparently sometimes, because of that attitude, I can come across like a bit too brazen, a bit too not polite, impolite, a bit too
Oh, that's so funny.
rude.
I've known you for 20 minutes and I don't
Uh,
think you're brazen at all. And maybe that's because I've lived in New York for,
yeah,
almost 20 years.
because I think the British attitude, well, again, I'm in Scotland, but it's still like, this attitude here is like kind of like what you describe in California is like, you come to the like coffee shop or restaurant and you just look around, what do you want, and it's all fine, it's all good, right? And then you speak to somebody and it's just like, no, I want this, and I know what I want this. Oh, do you want anything else? No, I don't, I want this. And it's just like like nice to the point. And some people, like, I used to work in this like a support job, like IT support job. Most
Uh-huh.
people loved me. Some people apparently did not take kindly to that attitude where I'm like, okay, did you try this and this? Yeah, no, I've tried this, I've tried. Okay, did you try this and this? Because I wanted to get them sorted as soon as possible so they could,
Yeah.
you know, operate their system. And apparently some people just wanted to have a bit more of that dance. We're like, oh, okay, okay, I see, I see, but have you considered trying this? And would
Well,
always
it's
be
so
like, path of least resistance. Like, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried this?
you seem because and the tone of your voice seems very kind. So I would say
Oh,
the opposite. If I
thank you.
heard you on the phone with me, I'd be like, you seem so nice.
Hmm.
And here's the thing, going back to the death threats and the die of cancer and all the things. um not everyone's gonna like you. It's just not, it's impossible to live
Correct.
in this world and have everyone like you. You actually could be the nicest person, the most lovely person, and someone's gonna be like, I bet they're fucking hiding who they really are because you seem too nice. I've experienced all of that. I actually had a close friend and I was talking, I was like, why does this person, I don't understand why they can hate me. I've literally done nothing to them. And they said, you are so innately kind, and some people may think that's fake. And I'm
Hmm.
like, wow, no matter what I do,
Yep.
someone's going to hate me. So here I go going, okay, I'm going to let all of you guys hate me and I will just continue being myself. And knowing that I'm authentically just trying to help you on the phone, or I'm at the deli counter just trying to make sure everybody, I know my shit so the people behind me aren't
Hmm.
waiting,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
whatever your intention is. I always feel like if your intention is one of helping, then you're good.
Yeah. And
Because if you're being a dick, you're like, I'm being a dick. I'm totally being a dick right now.
exactly, exactly. And again, like what they say, like you can be like there's a saying. I think like it comes from America. You can be the juiciest like what strawberry peach, but there's always there's always a person who's like I hate peaches. Like
Yes,
you can never satisfy everybody. That's about it,
never.
isn't it?
You never can. So just let it go.
Correct. Well, speaking of letting it go, that's a kind of a segment because my next question was for you. So you've done it kind of all. So you've done a Broadway, you've done non-Broadway, you've done movies, you've written two books.
Hmm.
So let's put any kind of success, any kind of box office, any kind of like this made me the most money aside for a moment. What are you most proud of? What the what's the one project you've done, and doesn't matter if it was successful or not. What are you most proud of?
Well, yes, thank you for asking that question in
Yeah,
that
thank you.
way because it a lot of the times the things you're the most proud of are things that don't make you money, or
Hmm.
they're things that haven't made you money, or that they weren't commercially successful. So
Hmm.
I was in a show when I was 20. The poster's right here. I know you can't see, but the
Hmm.
poster's right there.
Hmm.
I was in a show with Stephen Sondheim,
Oh,
who's a brilliant composer, and he's now passed away. Rest in
yeah.
peace.
Hmm.
I was 21 years old, and I was young Phyllis in Follies, which is a musical that was at the Paper Mill Playhouse in New Jersey.
Hmm.
So, not Broadway, but I was working with some of the best names in Broadway, including Ann Miller, who was
Wow.
to me, is a very famous tap dancer. Her tap shoes are in the Smithsonian. If you don't know who she is, look her up. You've
Hmm.
probably seen her. She's also passed away. I worked with Donna McKechnie and Lillian Montevecchi and Kay Ballard, Tony Rock. Just so many people, so many people.
Hmm.
And I consider it my first Broadway show, even though it wasn't technically on Broadway, because we did a cast album, we did all these things. So I say that because I really didn't make a lot of money. I mean, I
Hmm.
probably ran through that money as it came in,
Yeah.
because it was just a regional show. And I think about it all the time. I listen to the cast album and I cry still because it's just so palpable in my memory.
Hmm.
My work in it, I think, was great. I also am very proud of the fact that I starred on Broadway. I was only 25 years old. I took over the role of Peggy Sawyer, which, if you know that show, 42nd Street, it was at the West End
Hmm.
recently, but I played the role of Peggy Sawyer on Broadway at 25. And I told myself when I was about 13, 12 or 13, that's what I was going to do. I was going
Hmm.
to star on Broadway at 25 years old, and I did it. And that's crazy that I manifested that. So I'm very proud of myself. Now, I made more money doing that because it's Broadway and I
Hmm.
was starring on Broadway. And that also brought me over to Moscow. I worked in Russia. I wrote two books about that experience because I was on Broadway during 9/11.
Oh.
Um, that was in 2001. Yes, so that's a whole thing, and you can read the book and you'll get all of it because my gosh, it's such a story. That's a whole podcast episode in itself.
Hmm.
But I'm proud of the fact that I manifested that experience. I'm really proud of all the things I've done,
Okay.
including being a mother.
Hmm. Hmm.
Just feeling like I'm I don't know, like I kind of I stick a stake in the ground and I declare what I want to do, and then I'm not really scared about doing it.
Hmm.
Even if I am scared, I'll do it anyway. I'll feel the fear and do it anyway. That's one of my sayings that I love.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm always proud of myself because I think of a rocking chair moment. I think of me at 90 years old or 100 because I'm going to live to be 100, right? We
Yes.
already said
Yep. Yep. Hmm.
I think of myself on my front porch with my great grandkids and all the things, and in my rocking chair. If I don't do whatever this next project is, or this idea that I have, or this thought, will I regret it when I'm in that rocking chair? Will I be with my cane, like, fucking,
Hmm.
I didn't fucking do this thing I said I was
Yeah.
going to do. That's the thing that the place I always go to in my brain, and I go, just fucking do it because
Hmm.
you're going to be pissed if you don't do it now. And even if it's not successful, I'll just do it.
Yeah, like it's much easier, like that's what they say as well, isn't it? It's much easier to live with the regrets. And it's like, oh yeah, I should, like, when you're like 80, 90, and it's like, oh yeah, I shouldn't have probably done this when I was this age, but hey, I survived. Whether like it's much easier to live with that rather than I should have done this when I was that age. I wish I would have
Yes.
done that. I wish I would have pursued this career or this opportunity that came about and never came back after, because of A, B, and C.
It's the
So,
trying.
yep.
It's the I have to try, and I have to try with all of my might,
Hmm.
110%. And
Hmm.
if I fail, well, at least I tried and that wasn't the path for me. But
Yep.
if I don't even try and I think, oh God, I should have done that, that's the regret that you don't want.
Hmm. Well,
Life
you seem like
lesson.
that kind of person. You did no, but you seem that kind of person that's why you've succeeded in so many different, like, not even stage, yeah, like stages of your career, I guess. Because if you did not have that trying spirit, you wouldn't go out to the movie world, to the Broadway, to the non-Broadway, to literal, like literally world. Like, it takes guts to do, like, oh, this is something new, let me try it. Oh, this is something new, let me try it.
And I
And you've done
failed
it.
more than And here's the thing, I've failed more than I've succeeded. You just see all the success. That's the thing. Nobody really sees the failure.
Hmm.
I try my best, especially in my podcast, to talk about all the levels of it because I
Hmm.
don't want people to only see that curated life that we have on social media where everybody's like, oh my God, you're so fabulous.
Hmm.
And you've done all this stuff. And you're like, yes, I have, but I've also gone through bankruptcy,
Hmm.
divorce,
Hmm.
moving 20 times. Nobody calling me, even though I've starred on Broadway. Like, what the fuck? And
Hmm.
so I've gone through all that too.
Hmm.
And waking up and having those moments of just feeling like I don't want to do anything but curl up in my bed today because
So
I feel bad or whatever. So
yeah.
I want people to know that if they're listening and they're like, I wish I could do that. You can. And the trying spirit, like you said, is
Hmm.
really important. But know that you're going to fail and that that rejection is just redirection into
Hmm.
another path.
Okay, is see, okay, when he said that, that made me think of another question. Let's go back. No, no, let's not go like we don't have to go too deep, but let's think about like when were you at your absolute lowest, like you've been rejected or whatever. What made you stick to it and just try again? Like what made you? Was there a point where you thought, you know what, maybe this career is not for me? And what made you still stick to it and still do this again?
Good question. It took me 8 years to get my first Broadway show. So,
Hmm.
knowing
Hmm.
that, I want people to know that I did not just show up in New York and I was like, yay. I
Yeah.
was like, I went to school, but it was not like a big college. I went to AMDA College and Conservatory for the Arts, and
Hmm.
I was graduated. I graduated when I was 19, and I was really poor. I was working two jobs. I was scrubbing the floors of Step Dance Studio and cleaning out the garbage from the bathroom. Like I was doing all the stuff that like most people would be like, I'm out.
Hmm.
I'm not doing
Hmm.
this anymore.
Hmm.
But I don't know where I get this spirit from. I really can't stop unless I go all the way. I will get pissed off at myself if I'm like, okay, yes, you had a bad day. This sucks. You didn't get this show and you're scrubbing toilets and I did Marilyn Monroe impersonations and I would go do that was like a side hustle, a side job that I had. And I would sing happy birthday at people's parties and pop out of
Ah,
cakes and say, happy birthday. And all that stuff.
yeah.
And then I would get paid money. And I was like, I just feel like I'm a dead movie star walking around. This is such bullshit. What the fuck? I want to be starring on Broadway. And I would literally get so down on myself. And then I would just go, it's just a feeling. I'm going to
Hmm.
swipe it away.
Hmm.
And I will be so mad if I quit. Because a lot of people that were in New York with me, who I even went to college with, just quit and went home. They were like, I'm
Hmm.
out. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And I literally said, it's going back to that rocking chair. I will be so mad at myself if I give up when I'm right there. I'm
Hmm.
almost there.
Hmm.
But there is like this insanity part of that you have to kind of be insatiably ambitious.
Hmm.
And I do have that about myself. I can't not finish. I wrote two books during the pandemic. Who
Hmm.
does that? Like, I don't, I mean, you're
You
usually like, I'm
apparently.
going to, apparently me.
Yeah.
Because somebody gave me the idea. It was 2021 when it was the 20-year anniversary of 9/11.
Hmm.
And, I wrote both the stories for my boys. I dedicate the books to my boys. And because I wanted them to know my story, they're now 9 and 12 years old. So I can eventually, they're studying 9/11 now. So I'm like, okay, mommy was starring on Broadway during that time. But I wrote, like, I go back to like, it's so hard to write a book. I don't know. I'm not an author, I have no training in it. I was like, who the fuck am I to write a book? Like,
Hmm.
okay. And I literally was like, I want to do this. And now I have to do this because if I declare it that I have to do it, I have to go all the way. So I started researching online. I found an editor. I was going to have someone ghostwrite it for me. I went through all the baby steps that a lot of times you don't see. All you see is the end result of, oh my God, she has a book.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
don't see all the like times when I'm like slamming my computer down, like, fuck this, I suck, and walking away. But then I'm like, okay, just go take a breath, go back, because if you don't finish it, you're going to be so pissed.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I talk to myself in that regard a lot when it comes to big things that I dream of doing.
Yeah.
Um, so just know that like a lot of people who are super successful go through those moments and you have to just push through it,
Hmm.
right?
Yep. No, like it's nothing compared to you, but I had something quite similar when I came to Scotland, because obviously I'm not from here, as we discussed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived in this one house with five other Czech people I've met online. We all met online, so totally safe. Would recommend.
Yeah.
And yeah, like pretty much four out of five lasted a year because like it's not that easy to live in a strange country where the mother tongue is English and we don't speak English in Czech Republic. It's not
Yes.
that easy to support yourself whilst studying college or university in a different language. It's not
Which
that
to
easy.
interject, I'm so
Hmm.
I'm always so impressed that
Oh.
everybody learns English and us Americans don't learn shit. We're like, oh, I took Spanish for a couple of years. No, you
Hmm.
don't speak Spanish or French or whatever. And then we like try to go over there and speak, and we're like, bonjour, and you're like, okay. So the fact that you
Yeah.
guys, so I just want to say, I always admire anybody who learns English because it's a really hard language to learn, and everyone thinks, oh, well, just speak English. No, not everybody does. Okay,
Well, we are
continue.
encouraged. I was gonna say, like, we are encouraged. We have no other choice because, like, in Czech
I
Republic, again, we
know.
give it to us. Like, even the teachers, they always give it to us straight, so they know, like, or they tell us, hey, if you wanna succeed in today's world, you need to learn English. So, like, it was given to us, like, English, 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 and yeah, and but yeah, to that point, so yeah, after not even a year, the four out of well, total six, myself included, went back to home, Czech Republic, and they
Hmm.
now live a nice lives there. Like they have they started families, they have this and this. But yeah, it's to an extent. Not everybody has that mindset where like yeah, like my first 2 3 years, I was doing like part-time jobs that were not that great. I had little to no free time. Like in that free time I had, I also had to study because I had to do this college lesson. I had to do this essay. I had to do this project, and yeah, so it was a lot. And there is a kind of mindset where you need to be mad at yourself at times. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake, I failed this, but I cannot fail next time. So like, you know what? I'll start again tomorrow. So I see where you're coming from, like in that way where that motivates you? Like, is it the fear of failure in a way that motivates you to keep on going?
Well, there is deeper ingrained things
Hmm.
in my ambition, which I've
Hmm.
found through therapy, which I love therapy. I love kind of digging
Okay.
into, yeah, I also holistic health coach. I life coach people. So because I personally am also interested in that. That's one of my side hustles when I started,
Hmm.
one of my side jobs is doing that when I became a mom because I started digging into my own stuff
Hmm.
because I realized I got more attention when I was doing something of note, meaning superior, something like high level, Broadway,
Hmm.
TV.
Hmm.
I got more attention from people, from friends, from my own parents, which is a very deep seated way of being raised. So I
Hmm.
was the star of my family.
Hmm.
Oh, my family calls me Mary. So, oh, Mary's on stage again. Let's go. Let's all go as a family and we're going to celebrate. She's going to get roses. This is from the time I was a little girl.
Hmm.
So my worth was completely intertwined with me being on stage.
Hmm.
So to me, and I realized this later after my mom passed away in 2022. Uh, I kind of had this moment of like breath where I could take a deep breath where I wasn't trying to get her attention anymore. Even as an almost 50-year-old woman, like it was crazy that I was like, my God, why do I still need to feel like I have to get the next thing? And in the entertainment industry, it's the next mountain. Oh, well, I don't have a Tony Award. Oh, I
Yep.
don't have an Oscar. I don't have a this. And literally, and this is from celebrities I've worked with, it literally never stops. They're even at their level, which is different than mine. They're like, oh, well, I don't have an Oscar yet. Oh, I don't have a Grammy yet. Oh, I got to get this. I have to play this role. And in the Broadway world, it's I have to originate a part on Broadway. Because when
Hmm.
you originate a role on Broadway, you're the first one to ever do it. So then that means more. All these notches in the belt.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting. It's exhausting.
It's like a
But
checklist, like a mental checklist. Like, I need to
yes,
do this. Yeah.
and I can talk about from anyone from all walks of life, whatever it is
Hmm.
you do. You're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a teacher, you're an influencer, you're a podcaster. I need to get
Hmm.
1 million downloads. It's like
Hmm.
you're always striving for the next thing. And it's so I'm now in my seasoned years of life
Mm,
trying to relax a little bit more. So I
mhm,
feel like in saying that you have to have this insatiable ambition, you do when you're in your early 20s, when you want to make your place in the world, and you there's all of that, but there's mixed in stuff like I said, like getting people's attention, which is like not a very healthy thing, you know,
mhm,
to
mhm.
like, that's like your worth is wrapped up in what you do. Um, but then also that it's that rocking chair moment. It's that feeling of like, do I need to try? It is something that I'm glad not everybody's built that way. I'm
Mhm.
actually glad the people that can go back. Sometimes I would go, why can't I fucking be the person who just did all this shit in the entertainment industry and now I'm going to just hang it up?
Mhm.
Why can't I stop? What's wrong with me? Like, I almost wish that I could go back and have, the house and the 2.5 kids and the dog and the husband and just breathe.
Yeah.
But there is a part of me that I have to douse my ambition
Mhm.
and that side of me that's like, I need everyone's attention. I'm like a little puppy that's like, listen to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So
I
it
know.
is a balance. It's a
Mhm.
balance.
See, so my next question would be, so you mentioned you're trying to slow down, right? You're trying to take your time because obviously,
I
like,
think
as you
age
said,
is
you're
doing
in
that.
seasoned years, right? Yeah.
Age is doing that faster than my mindset.
Yeah, I understand. But let me ask you this. Let's say you are in charge of Hollywood or Broadway, or you're in charge of the world for a day. So where
Yes.
you get to pick anything you want to do, because you've obviously, again, you've done quite a lot. Is there something that you still crave to do deep down? Like, I wish I would, I don't know, like direct a movie. Or I wish I would start another Broadway production. Like, if you get your pick at anything, what is that one thing you would wish to achieve? Not just in a lifetime, but like in now, let's say.
Oh gosh, I have such a long list.
I
Honestly,
believe
like this is
I believe
this is
somehow I
where
believe you.
I know, and this is where I say I'm slowing down. I'm
Mhm.
not. I'm really not. I just actually was in the dance studio the other night and I was trying to, I was dancing and I was like getting my heart rate up and whatever. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see I still tap dance. I still do all the things.
Nice.
Um, I have this a couple notches that I want in my belt, and it's
Mhm.
more personal. It's not really for anyone else but me because I just think it would be cool.
Mhm.
Um, and if they ever revived the 42nd Street musical, which it's been almost 25 years, so it's time, I say,
Mhm.
and it's a great musical. I would love to play Dorothy Brock, which is the older character. Peggy Sawyer's the younger girl. Dorothy Brock's the one she breaks her ankle, or
Mhm.
says she didn't.
Ah, I
If
see.
you've seen the musical, she doesn't do it on purpose. That's my take on the character.
Mm.
But I would love to play Dorothy because she's just such a great character.
Mhm.
So yes, I would. That's starring on Broadway. That Christine Ebersole, if you know who that is, she won the Tony for that back in the day. I don't need to get an award. This is what's funny.
Mhm.
I actually don't. I used to be like, I have to get all the awards because that's
Mhm.
what makes you valuable in the world and all the things. I don't really feel like I need to get an award. Would I love one? Sure. But I don't feel like I need to. I also would like to, because I love traveling. I would actually like to travel the world
Mm.
and go into all the theaters of the world and talk about the history of the theater. I especially want to do the vaudeville circuit, which is a big vaudeville and Orpheum circuit here in America. It was kind of how a lot of big tap stars and big musical theater stars started their career.
Mhm.
And it's a big history part of theater here in America. But I would love to travel the world and go to all the theaters in the world, and that as like a travel show.
Mhm.
So if anybody's listening and wants to do that, reach out to me and we'll produce it together. So
Yeah.
that those are two big things that I want to do, but I could be here all day. I have
Mhm.
so many ideas. See, and those are two ideas that one of them I can't control at all really, meaning being a role on Broadway. You really can't control it. You can audition and
Yeah.
then you got to let it go.
Yeah.
Unless you're the producer, unless you're like in charge of all things, even then you could be kicked out of the part. But the travel show, I could produce it. It's just, that's a big thing. And I'd be like, it just takes money
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
people.
Yeah.
So
And but I feel like if it's achievable, like now would be the time because it seems like, there are more and more musical people like yourself. Like, there are so many even movies nowadays about like a musical, if you're a musical theater kid, you will love this movie and this movie and this movie, like Wicked, like, was such a big
Yeah.
thing. I didn't even expect that to be that such a big thing. And then that's when I realized, oh shit, there's an entire generation of music theater kids. That's their own like subgenre of people or
Oh
like a
my
group
gosh,
of
yes.
people, and they love this stuff. So, like, the idea about this podcast, you traveling around the world, and this is the theater, this is the history, this is what, the first showing of this play was here in this theater and back in 1921 or whatever. That I
Yeah.
feel like would be as popular now as it will ever be.
I think it would be a great show. I think it would be, it's like I need to go to National Geographic or I need to go to like Disney, who I've
Mm-hmm.
worked with a lot. I don't know anybody over at Disney, but I feel like this is where my mindset is, who can I call? Can I
Mm-hmm.
pick up the phone and talk to the head of Disney? That like I would be super scared to talk to them, but I also would still do it because I have to ask the question. But yeah, I do want to do more television. I want to do more film. I want to do
Mm-hmm.
Broadway again. It
Mm-hmm.
would have to be a special project because Broadway is a really tough schedule, especially to be a parent. It's 8 shows a week. It's all encompassing. Your life is pretty much surrounding your show that you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
which is awesome. And I know a lot of parents that do it. And so I'm not saying it's not possible, but I feel like I did a lot of theater. I love theater. I want to do it again, but in pockets here and there. And if I was able to do this travel show, which everybody who wants to do it with me, call me.
Mm-hmm.
Go to meredithpatterson.com. I think that it would be really fun to actually have some guests on there who are
Mm-hmm.
big theater stars and have them get on the stage and just do like a number.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be a really fun way to like incorporate, the theaters. But I've traveled the country, meaning America, in 3 national tours. So I've experienced a lot of those theaters and I just think it would be a magical thing to do. And I would
Mm-hmm.
get to selfishly travel to Europe, to, Australia, to like all over the world and see every kind of theater. I'm not saying just the big grand ones. I'm saying the tiny 90-seat theater. I worked in Moscow.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the Stanislavski house. I saw
Nice.
that
Mm-hmm.
theater inside the house where they first did a lot of performances. To be able to go back and do like, this is where so and so started.
Mm-hmm.
This is what, would be not only educational for all the theater geeks like myself, but it would be just really, I think, super interesting television. So, again, anyone who wants to do it with me, let's let's do that project.
I feel like there are so many TV shows, like, hey, two dudes are going to Italy and eat food and try food here and try, and then another two dudes are going to Spain and trying to, food here and here and here. Like, why not about it, theaters like that? Why not like, you going to a, theater in this country, or like, like first season will be American to tour, second season will be European tour, and so on. I can see it.
Yeah, no, so here's the thing. Now that I've said this idea and it's out in the world, a lot of times I like to keep these things close to me because
Hmm.
now all the other theater people who maybe have more clout than I do, they're gonna be like, I'm
Hmm.
gonna fucking do that show. And bitch, I'm gonna come for you if you do it
Let's cut it
because
out.
it's
Let's
my
cut it
idea.
out.
And so if you see anybody else doing this idea, it was my fucking idea first. No, you're right. It's something that I don't see anybody doing.
Hmm.
And I feel like there is a niche for that. But also like I would do a show about food, but food isn't my thing. I love
Hmm.
food. I'll eat food all day.
Hmm.
I'll eat really good food all over the country or all over the world. Like please sign me up for that show.
Hmm.
But my expertise is theater and my love is theater and I geek out and I want to know who performed here. I want to know who tap
Yeah.
danced on these boards, things like that. So, yeah.
Hmm. No, that sounds awesome. I really hope, like, genuinely, I feel like it's a good idea. And because, yeah, again, movies about, like, based on theater, like big theater plays are as popular as they've ever been. So
I know
if
and
there's a time,
I think it's coming back around, and you mentioned Wicked. I think when it's
hmm
done really well, which Wicked was done really well,
hmm
when it's done really well and it's kind of a throwback to the movie musical days where they took people who could actually sing and dance. No offense
Hmm.
to anyone who's been in a movie musical who can't sing and dance.
Hmm. Hmm.
I feel like you need to take the people who can actually do it and put them in the movie and then just blow it up in the beautiful way that they did Wicked. Not do something where, oh my gosh, I spent 3 months learning how to dance or learning how to sing for this role. And you're like, no, you're still bad at it. Like, I love you, but you're not, you're really good at acting. Like, go back to that. But you're not a tap dancer. Like, no offense.
Hmm.
Because I think it's insulting to do a movie musical and you don't have somebody who has literally trained their entire life. I actually, and I'll go to this, and I love the Coen brothers who I worked with on a movie called Hail Caesar.
Oh, nice.
And yes, and I worked as the tap coach for Channing Tatum, who
Ooh,
is an
cool.
actor,
Hmm.
uh, very nice guy, not a tap dancer. So in my pre-production meetings with the Coen brothers, they came up to me and said, "Can you make Channing look like Gene Kelly?" And if you don't know who Gene Kelly is, he's one of the greatest tap dancers of all time. He
Yep.
played Don Lockwood in Singing in the Rain,
Hmm.
huge
Hmm.
movie musical, like one of the top 100 best films of all time.
Yep. Yep.
And I looked at them and I said, I know you want that, but I don't know that I could even make him. I said, he doesn't know how to tap dance at all. Gene Kelly spent his entire life up
Hmm.
until his 20s studying tap and dance and all form. And you just can't, like, poof, you're a tap dancer. So I give Channing a lot of credit because I did spend about 3.5 months with him
Hmm.
working on his tap skills. And at the end of that, right before we were filming, he was like in a ball on the floor of the studio, like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm so scared, blah, blah, blah. And I said, listen, no one's going to make you look bad. We're going to dub your tap sounds. No one's going to know. So unfortunately, that's, yeah, he's not really tapping there. We are
Hmm.
dubbing his tap sounds in a lot of things. He worked really hard, but this is where I go to. They didn't do that with Wicked. They
Hmm.
actually had these two women who can sing and act and are phenomenal,
Hmm.
phenomenal singers.
Yep.
You can't teach someone to sing like that in 3 months and then just go here. You have to auto tune them and all the things. It's sort of like we can go to Nicole Kidman in Moulin Rouge. I love Nicole Kidman. She's a brilliant actress. She's not a singer. If
Hmm.
you are a singer, you hear that that's all auto tuned and she worked
Hmm.
hard on it, but she's just not, it's not what she does.
Hmm.
So I say that just long way around the barn. I'm glad they didn't do that with Wicked. And I
Yeah.
think that musical theater on film, if it's done right, is yes, coming back because people love it. And it's when it's done well,
Hmm.
put a camera on it and just do it.
And it's not even done well. Like obviously that's a big part, but I would even add the addendum. Like Ariana Grande, like I don't really know her. Well, obviously I don't know her. I don't know much about her.
Yeah.
But I knew like she is a massive Wicked fan, and this was her
Yes.
dream role. Like even I, who as a person I don't really follow her that much. I know who she is, obviously because she's a megastar. So, duh. But like even I've seen interviews from her like back from like 10 years ago where she's was talking about Wicked and how that would be her dream role. Glinda
Hmm.
or Galinda would be her dream role. So like, also, done well, but also cast the geeks, cast the, people who are super passionate about that project and they will deliver.
Yeah, and she manifested that big
Hmm.
time. She is a musical theater girl. So she did 13 on Broadway when she was
Hmm.
young. And has been working really hard. And again, she declared that's what I want to do. And she did become a megastar. So that does help
Yeah, yeah.
because that's the business side of this business. We forget it's a show business.
Hmm.
A lot of times you don't get parts because not because you're not talented, it's because you're not going to bring in the box office draw that Ariana Grande is bringing in. So
Yeah.
just know that sometimes it has nothing to do with you.
Hmm. Hmm. No,
Yeah.
100%. Well, I hope your idea will actually take off at some point. Like, the theater
Yeah. I
you
feel like I
traveling
have to
around.
do it. Yeah, the theater, traveling around
Yeah, yeah. Would be cool.
and
That would be
being on.
really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be really fun. And again, I have a lot of things I want to do, but that keeps coming back. So I
Hmm.
also
Hmm.
when I meditate, which I do, and I do what's called like a I just write, it's like morning pages, which is in the Artist Way, which is a really old book. It's like from like 1997, but
Okay.
it's a book called The Artist Way where if you are an artist and you just kind of dump all the things out of your brain, ideas out of your brain, song lyrics, whatever it is, and it doesn't have to have any sort of like linear meaning.
Mm-hmm.
You just kind of write in the morning. And so as I'm meditating and I get quiet, I think about things that I want to do,
Mm-hmm.
where I want my life to go, how I want my relationships to go, who do I want to talk to, who do I miss, or how am I feeling? I feel like eating this, whatever. It's random shit like that.
Yeah.
And this travel show keeps coming up in my head. And so when that happens over and over again, it's kind of in the forefront of my
Mm-hmm.
mind. I go,
Okay.
okay, it's the universe, God, whoever tapping me on the shoulder, being like, get it together and do this freaking thing. Ask
All
the
right.
questions. Because I
Well,
have no idea how to do it. I've never done a travel show.
mhm.
No,
I'm on
but
the lookout for, like, 2026, 2027, that travel show starring you. That'd be
Meredith
kind of
Patterson,
cool.
you're going to see it and you're going to be like, oh my God, we talked about it. And there it
Yes.
is.
Yes. Well, okay, so that's honestly, that's fascinating. So, all right, I don't even know where to move from here. So let's let me let me ask you this, all right? Because I think like we've learned a lot about you, and I love that. It's so great.
Thank you.
So my next question, usually I ask this about the specific place where you're from,
Hmm.
but given you spent quite a chunk of your years in New York, another
Hmm.
chunk in LA, and now obviously Montana.
Hmm.
So I'll leave that up to you. You can pick any of these places. But if I were to ask you, hey, Meredith, I'm coming there for a week, 1 week, right? Where would we go? What would you recommend me to see? There's no place like that, like where you live, like, oh, we have this or that and that. And where would we like go to eat? What would you say? Like, what would you tell
Ah.
me?
Well, because New York City is visited quite often and
Mm-hmm.
there's so many choices, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to pick Whitefish, Montana, even though all
Okay.
the Montanans here are going to be mad to hear that I'm talking about this town because they don't want people, although it's a resort town, meaning that a lot of the money that comes to this town is from people visiting. So,
Ah, yeah.
it is a beautiful town.
Mm-hmm.
I would say come here in the summertime,
Okay.
uh, June, July, August, even
Mm-hmm.
into September.
Mm-hmm.
And I would tell you to go to Glacier National Park, which is one of the most
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, beautiful national parks
Mm-hmm.
um, in the world. It is like Switzerland. I've never been to Switzerland, but I imagine that people say it looks like Switzerland. People who
Okay.
have been to Switzerland who see it, they're like, oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
it's like Switzerland. But it's just beautiful. It is a real connection to nature. There's also, if you want to come here in the winter, there's also skiing.
Okay.
Black Diamond Hill. I'm not a skier. I've actually never skied in my entire life. I know,
Mm.
don't come for me. I just am a professional dancer. I don't want to get hurt. So it's never really come up. But
Makes
I still
sense.
have lived here. I've lived here 5 years and I've never skied. And people are like, what?
Mm-hmm.
But in the summertime, Flathead Lake is one of the lakes that's near here, and Whitefish Lake. They're one of the cleanest lakes in the country,
Mm.
meaning like less pollution. And we can get into a whole thing about that.
Yeah.
But thank God that they're clean and beautiful, and you can jump in the lake and just swim, go
Mm-hmm.
boating, just lay out in the sun. The air here is very clean. I lived in New York City for a long time, and when you go back, which I've been back to visit,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, ooh, I forgot how different the air is.
Yeah.
The place that you would eat here,
Mm-hmm.
I feel there's a very fancy place that I actually perform a lot on the second story of 101 Central, which is downtown Whitefish. There's a place that is called Herb and Omni, which is herbivore and omnivore. So
Okay.
it's got beautiful choices, has a Michelin star chef who is running it. And it's just, you would never expect that here. But there's some bougie people that come here. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a nice place to go.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go to a place that is not so nice, go across the street to a place called the Northern, which is like a bar dive and you can get some fish and chips.
Okay.
Not good fish and chips for you UK people. It's American fish and chips, which I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure is not well made compared to yours. But yeah, just enjoying hiking and nature and, watch out for the bears. That's about it.
Okay. Watch out for the bears. Have you
I've
stumbled
never
upon a
seen a
bear?
bear.
Okay.
I've lived here 5 years. I've never seen a bear. So knock on wood, I won't see one. But yes, that's what the Montanans say. Watch out for the bears.
But you know what's gonna happen now, right? So you just said, I've been here for 5 years, never seen a bear. Tomorrow you walk out and you'll just see one or two, and it's gonna be like, ah, for
Just like
fuck's
I
sake.
know, just like the travel show, I better hurry up and do it or
Mm-hmm.
someone's going to take it. Now I'm going to see a bear.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I didn't see the bear, but a bear got into our garbage. We put our
Ooh.
garbage out. This is in the springtime because it is it's springtime here.
Mm-hmm.
And you put your garbage out if it's the most of the garbage lids have like a bear proof. It's bear proof so they can't get into it.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't snap it down all the way, and there was just trash everywhere. And the sweet garbage person came and helped me pick it all up. But he's like, "Yeah, oh yeah," and there was like bear crap right next to, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Oh my God, a bear was right here," and I
Mm-hmm.
kind of wanted to see it, but you want to see it because you think it's exciting, and then you're like, "I'm gonna die."
Yeah.
So
I'm so happy we don't really have like we I think we might have wolves here like here and there, but like
okay,
not that much. We have some foxes running around even in the city because they are like confused. And as like the even here like the I think the forestry is kind of shrinking a bit. They don't know where to
yeah.
go. So that's kind of sad, but also like it was kind of surreal to I walked out of the movie. I went to see Brutalist like the other month,
Oh
walked out,
wow.
and there was a fox just next to me, like just like I went one way and the fox went past me. I'm like, what's up? And it was just a fox on the street, and it was like middle of a city. I'm like,
Oh,
yeah,
that's so sad. They don't know where to go. So no, I
yeah,
know that I know that this you're just talking about going to the movies. I
hmm
know that this podcast is generally about movies.
hmm
Um and I gosh, that could be a whole part two because I
hmm
love the movies, obviously,
Well,
wanting
we,
to
we
be in
will
them.
talk about movies. Don't worry, you're getting there. Don't you worry. Like this is why these episodes are usually 2 3 hours long because people we talk we like to talk. So
Yes,
that's all.
absolutely.
So last question before we move along. Do you think, I obviously you don't nobody knows the future, right?
Right.
But are you that content in Montana, in Whitefish, Montana, where you think this is where you're gonna stay until you die? Like in a sense where, do you can you see yourself potentially coming back to California or coming back to New York to actually live, not just like to work?
Absolutely. I can see myself even, going to Europe and
Mm-hmm.
living
Mm-hmm.
there for a little bit. Like I really
Mm-hmm.
am somebody who is a gypsy, as we
Mm-hmm.
call ourselves in the business. I don't I mean I love it for now,
Mm-hmm.
but I had somebody ask me yesterday and I feel like it's in the air. Are you going to stay there? Do you want to come back to New York and do? And I was like, absolutely. I've auditioned for a bunch of shows that are now on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
Death Becomes Her, which is now on Broadway. I auditioned for that. Music Man, that was there with Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster.
Mm-hmm.
I am somebody who I want for my kids to have more of this is where it's not just me. It's like I have children to think of. I
Mm-hmm.
want them to have more of a stable life, but also who knows if it wouldn't be more exciting for them to be like, oh my God, now we're going to move in, now we're going to live in New York City, or now we're going to live in California, or we're going to live, I don't know, wherever the wind takes us. And they're performers as well. Like they sing and dance and all that stuff. So it is kind of in the blood in our
Mm-hmm.
house.
Yeah, it runs in a family, so of course.
Yeah, but I do love Whitefish. I do love the community here. I do
Mm-hmm.
love the people here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is a very just a very friendly, loving, open-minded town of
Mm-hmm.
Whitefish. Yeah, so I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Okay,
Good
okay.
question. I don't really have a fully like answer for
hmm
that yet.
No, but as long as
It's
you're
where I
content here with your
yeah,
bears, like with the bears you haven't seen yet, but they are there. That's all.
they are
That's
here.
yeah,
They're
they
waiting for
sure
my
are.
garbage to not be snapped down.
Correct. That's why. Yeah, that's why you need to bear proof everything. Yes.
It's true. Bear proof yourself. I don't
Cool.
know.
I think okay, with that, I think we can move to this or that. I'll give you two choices, and you'll tell me
Okay.
which one would you prefer and why. So, Meredith, TV shows or movies?
Movies.
Okay. So,
I said movies because it all kind of gets not that there aren't sequels,
hmm
but it gets buttoned up. You get that window into that character life story.
hmm
But I'm a storyteller. I love if it's a good TV series, I will not want it to end. Like Breaking Bad was one of my favorite TV series.
yeah.
That's a hard question, but yes,
I
I
know.
I said movies. That was my
Movies.
choice.
Movies it is. Tea or coffee?
I'm a coffee girl. I
Okay.
do like tea though, but I'm a
Hmm.
coffee girl. I know. And actually when I worked with Julie Andrews, we had tea time
Oh,
every
nice.
rehearsal around 4 o'clock. We
Very
would stop
proper.
everything. We would stop everything for tea. And she had the most beautiful array of tea. I take tea with milk, not lemon. Depends
Okay.
on if I'm sick. If I am sick,
Very
I'll take
British of
lemon.
you. Very
Very
British of you.
British of me.
Yes.
I like a crumpet. I also, I like tea, but I also like really good cappuccino.
Okay.
Like
That was my
really good
next
coffee.
question. So coffee, but cappuccino for you then.
Cappuccino. And I had a brilliant Sicilian woman that I went to college with who I had my first espresso with her.
Mm.
Never had had it before. I was like 18 and I was like, "Oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, bing bing bing." I had so much energy.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't have Starbucks when I moved to New York, so that's how old I am. There was no Starbucks in New York, so it was like go to the regular cafe and have a real espresso, and it was amazing. But cappuccino is my choice.
I cannot even imagine all the young people, if any young people listening to this. What do you mean there was a time before Starbucks? What?
There wasn't, I'm going to blow your mind.
Yeah,
There
I know.
wasn't the internet. There was no,
Oh.
there was the internet, but I learned how to email in New York. I
Mm-hmm.
got on with the dial on where it was like beep
Yep,
beep,
yep, 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 yep,
making all those noises. And then you had to like unplug your phone jack and put it into like old school.
yep, yep.
School.
That's what
So
we refer
welcome
to as
to.
dark ages. Yes, that's and for a certain generation like younger than me, those like they cannot even comprehend when something is not touchscreen.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I think that there'll be holograms of everybody, kind of like Minority Report. I think that's happening in
S-
my lifetime.
Looks
I'm going
like
to be the
it.
person that's on the rocking chair being like, "I remember when
I
there
remember
was there was
smartphones.
no remote control and I had to get up and do the dial. There was only 6 channels."
Yep, and you had to like get up and change on a TV. Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
you had to go up and
Mhm.
either had to change the dial, and I was the youngest in my family, so I was always the one that was told to do it.
On the dial duty. Yeah, yeah. You were
You
always like,
you get up and do it. Oh gosh. Okay.
money or free time?
Oh wow.
Mm,
Good question. Money or free time?
mhm.
Time is priceless, so I'm going to say free time.
Okay.
I'm going to say free time. I know money is important too, but I think once your needs are met, the happiness level of after that, once you're able to, eat and pay your bills and all the things, all you want is free time. You just want to
Hmm.
be able
Hmm.
to chill or do what
Fair.
you want, right?
Yeah, fair, fair. So next one will be interesting because California girl, New York girl. So honesty or other people's feelings.
Oh gosh.
Mm-hmm.
I think honesty because you can be honest and still be kind to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Because other people's feelings are really important to me. I have a lot of empathy. In fact, sometimes people say you have too much empathy. You don't think of yourself, you think of
Mm-hmm.
other people more.
Mm-hmm.
But I think honesty is important. If people are asking for it, don't give it if you don't, this is
Yeah.
like the rule when you go see a Broadway show that you don't necessarily like the show, but your friend's in it. You go, "Oh my gosh, this was so great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was such a great, you were up there." You don't, you don't, you don't
If
want
they ask
to
for a
lie.
feedback, then you give it. But if they
If
you know,
they
if they just
say,
ask, how did you like it? Like yeah.
if they say, I really value your opinion, what you really think, blah, 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 blah. And you're in, maybe you're in like the privacy where there aren't like ears listening,
Yeah,
meaning other cast members and things like that, where you
of
don't want to
course.
hurt anyone's feelings. But you're like, yeah, I didn't think that the lighting was great, or this role seemed miscast, or whatever. And then you can really get into the honesty. But it's really kind of the slippery slope. But I
Mm-hmm.
think I'll pick honesty.
Okay, fair. So we kind of touched on this, but I don't think we got an like actual answer. So summer or winter?
Summer. I'm a
Okay.
California girl and I didn't really have a lot of weather. We
Hmm.
drove to the snow when I was a kid. It was like, oh, we're going to Disneyland. Like driving to the snow was like
Yeah.
fun. It was like an adventure.
Mhm.
Um, so I would say summer. I do love summer better.
And Montana, am I correct in saying it's like a dry heat or is it like a hu more humid?
It's not humid at all. I
Okay.
mean, it can be a little humid, but it's more of, it feels a lot like California for me in terms
Okay.
of the summer here. That's why I
Hmm.
say summers people flock here.
Hmm.
Um, and it's a dry cold, which is
I
hard to
see.
explain.
Hmm.
It's it's not that like to the bone shiver
Hmm.
that you can't get warm because it's that wet cold. I think if you've
Oh.
experienced both, then you know what I'm talking about. But until you've experienced, so a dry cold would be like walking into like a meat freezer. It's
Mm.
that
Oh, yeah,
dry
yeah.
kind of feeling. It's really cold in there, but it's dry.
Yeah, yeah,
Wet
yeah.
cold is not that.
I see. Okay. That's actually a good analogy. Like, yeah, the meat freezer. Okay,
Meat
cool.
freezer, meat
Yeah,
locker. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Probably the most important question of all, ninjas or pirates?
Oh gosh. Pirates. I know that doesn't, I don't even know why I'm picking that. Here's why I'm picking that. This is going to be
Okay,
so dumb. I'm a huge Johnny Depp fan. Like I
okay.
am kind of he was my first like crush because I'm going back, see this is how old I am. I'm going back to 21 Jump Street, the original
Yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
Johnny Depp made his debut.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I was like, who is that? And I'm in love with him. And then the moment I think of pirates, I think of my favorite character that he's played, which is, Jack Sparrow. So
Mm-hmm.
pirates. That's a
That's.
really dumb reason to pick that,
I
but
was gonna say that's not dumb. That's totally legitimate. Like, especially the
okay.
first like three pirates movies are like great, like genuinely
It's so
great.
great. He's so funny too. It's yes, so pirates.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
my husband kind of looks like Johnny Depp. So
lucky you then.
a
Lucky
little
you. See, so you
lucky me.
basically achieved your, like a teenage dream where like, oh, Johnny Depp, he's kind of hot, and then you meet your husband. He's kind of hot too. All
Ah,
right, hey, is your name Johnny too? Cool, let's go.
good on you. Good on you, as they say.
Yes. And the last question, free will or destiny?
Oh, free will, because I think, as I've talked about before, free
Hmm.
will,
Hmm.
uh, the feeling that you have control of your destiny. I don't know if because I know there's a lot of things I've really wanted and they just didn't happen. And I was like, okay, that's where I go
Hmm.
back to that rejection is redirection. It's just a mental thing
Hmm.
to give yourself hope and to have you not ruminate over the fact that you didn't get this one thing.
Hmm.
So I would say free will, but I don't know if there's destiny. I don't know if you're destined to do something. I think for me in the business, I always say to people I'm coaching who want to be on Broadway, I say if a role is meant for you, it will not pass you.
Hmm.
No
Hmm.
matter, because I've auditioned. My first thing on television was opposite Tom Selleck and Candice Bergen. It was on Boston Legal, which is a big show.
Yep, yep.
I'd never done television before. I didn't know shit about shit. I
Hmm.
literally had
Hmm.
no idea what I was doing. I was a
Hmm.
theater girl. I thought I did the worst audition ever. I
Hmm.
was like, this is a terrible audition. Nobody laughed. It was like a camera, me and the casting director, and it was a funny character. And I made all these really bold choices of like, it because I had to snort laugh. If you see the episode, my first episode on Boston Legal, it's called Live Big, and it's in like season 3, I believe.
Hmm.
And I had to do this like crazy, like snort laugh. It was very specific
Yeah.
and nobody laughed. And I was like, okay, I suck. I walked away and I was like, that was terrible. And I need to go back to acting class. And I called my agent and I was like, well, I just totally botched that. I'm so sorry. And I booked it.
Hmm.
And I was
Hmm.
like, how did I do that? I am nobody. I didn't, so I say that because that story is a good example of that role was meant for me to have because then that role turned into I was on the episode or I was on 3 seasons for 5 episodes. I got to be opposite Tom Selleck for a long time. And I'm like, these are huge stars.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
here I am, this little theater kid coming in. So yeah, and I feel like that maybe was my destiny, but I still am going to pick free will because I
All
like the
right.
idea that I have some choice in the
That
matter.
you're in control. Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, in some way.
Hmm. No, you strike me as the person who would actually do that. Like, who, yeah, that tracks from the little I know of you
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Makes sense. That makes so much
Yeah.
sense. And before we move to the Flix part of this podcast, because we will talk about movies, don't you worry. Do you have any hot takes or controversial opinions you would like to share with us?
Oh my gosh. Well, we are in a very high volatile time here in America.
To put it
I am one
lightly,
of the
yes.
I am one of the white women who did not vote for Trump because I want to make sure, there was a lot of them,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of me that voted for Trump, and there's like people in America that are wearing I wish I had mine on now, but you can't see anyway because it's only audio. Blue bracelets that identify you as somebody who voted for Kamala Harris and
Mm-hmm.
did not vote for Trump. So I never voted for Trump. I didn't vote for him the first time. I didn't vote for him the second time. In fact, I would never even, I actually wouldn't perform for him. I would probably leave. Even if I was canceled, I would be like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what's interesting about it's just how divided we are. We're a very big country, huge country compared
Mm-hmm.
to like if you were to take America and put it over, Europe, it's like imagine all of Europe had to have one person running it. You're like, okay,
Yep.
everyone has their own opinions. But I think, he's a disgusting 34 count felon, adulterer, disgusting pig. Like
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't think he's in any way as a human being
Mm-hmm.
great. And then also obviously what he's doing right now in his second term is horrendous and it's horrendous worldwide. So there's so much but I'm also feeling like I have to choose love over hate. I have to find a way to not hate every day
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't vote for it, but I'm experiencing it. I still have to live in the country, or I don't really. I
Mm-hmm.
could move somewhere. I
Yep.
could come to Scotland. But yes, but it's a hard thing for those of us who are on the other side of it, watching it, experiencing it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very proud of the people who are speaking up. I'm really actually proud of all the town halls that are here, people coming and calling their representatives and all that stuff. Do I think it's going to really make a difference? I don't know. And it's kind of my jadedness because I did it the first time he was president and
Mm-hmm.
it didn't do shit. And more
Mm-hmm.
people voted for him. So it's frustrating. Um, that's something where I feel like I don't have free will, but I feel like there's some kind of lesson we're going to learn. Hopefully, we will survive this shit show that's
Mm-hmm.
happening here.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I want to say all the things that there was this TikTok that was going around of a woman that left a message on one of the representatives'
Mm-hmm.
um, numbers, and she's like, "Fuck this fucking bullshit, goddamn." I mean, she went off,
Yeah.
and I listened to it, and I go, "Uh huh." That's how I feel every day. But I have a life to live, and I can't feel that anger all the time. So I
Mm-hmm.
have to figure out what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
So on my podcast, I did an episode called "Choose Love," and it actually goes to Martin Luther King, his choice of I have to choose love over hate because hate is too much of a burden to bear. And it's true. And it's going to Gandhi and going to all of these in Mother Teresa and all these amazing people in the world who the energy you put out is what you get back. The more that you hate on someone, he doesn't give a fucking shit that we hate him. He actually probably likes it. It's
Mm-hmm.
attention, right? So the more, I don't even like saying his name because the more attention you give to him, the more that he'll grow and
Mm-hmm.
that energy will grow. So the more love that we can give the people who do not support him, and this is worldwide. I love seeing the parades of him, being mocked and all that stuff. I think it's hilarious.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I freaking love Europe for that. I was like, saw some and I was like, yes. But then there's a part of me that's like, don't give him attention because he wants it, It's
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
there's part of that that's like, I want to see the big blow ups or the big fu and like him in a diaper and shit like that. I love it. I freaking love it. I relish it up.
Mm-hmm.
But then I go, okay, we have to find a way to find unity and love through that. And that's very woo woo in California, granola and all of it. I get it. But I also am like, it is a real law of attraction thing. It is a real, like, what you give attention, what you resist persists
Mm-hmm.
thing that I know is so true. So we have to find something else to focus on besides him because I can't take it. So yeah, that's my controversial. I don't know if that's controversial. I think I'm the sane person in the world who's speaking out. I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's so hard to like, to talk about this because like I feel like I'm quite open about like how I feel about him, and yeah, like, I'm on the same page as you. I would have never voted for him.
Yeah.
Uh, I've never understood how he became so popular, how this billionaire, well, used to be billionaire at least. Now we don't know because he's never
Yeah, we
released
don't
his
know.
tax returns. Like how he convinced so many, not even middle class, like dirt poor people. Nothing wrong with that. Dirt poor, like like not everybody, like people are struggling. And how did he manage to convince so many struggling people that he is somehow in their corner? That
I
he
know.
somehow the person who has been born into this wealthy family, and his entire life he had a lot of things handed to him on a silver platter, And
Literally
somehow
said he had a, yeah, literally he said, "Oh, I started my real estate career with a small
a
million
small
dollar
1 million,
loan."
yeah,
And you're
from my
like, "What the
dad.
fuck?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back in like 1974 when it was like, 1 million was actually like not a small at all. And it's like,
And he's
yep.
still fucked up. He still
Yeah.
went
Yeah.
bankrupt 6 times. Hello.
Exactly. But it's the
Yes.
thing, right? And how a person like that managed to convince the quote unquote little people, the like, the people like myself who would be in that category, who are not making nearly enough money, like, oh yeah, this billionaire is fighting for me. He's on my side. And I
Yeah.
never understood that. Like
He
even
would
like,
call you he would call you the little people. I just call
yes,
you a person.
yes.
Like that's yeah, it's exactly so he literally conned everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it either. I think a psychologist, maybe years from now, can maybe figure that out. I would love to actually talk to a psychologist and be like, how is this possible? Because I do think he's really fucking stupid. I think Trump is just like do like, but he also is kind of brilliant with his manipulation. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think like that. I have
Mm-hmm.
no idea how you could do that to people, how you can lie flat out and then just say, I didn't lie. I didn't say that. And you're like, here's the audio. Like, I don't get it. I actually can't, I could not look myself in the mirror. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't even think to think like him. But how can you hear all that and still go, he's so great. He's so strong. He loves his family. No, he doesn't. He loves himself. And so it's hard. It's hard to, I feel terrible for the people who have, because now leaving MAGA is like a hashtag that's like,
Mm-hmm.
that's going worldwide or going nationwide, maybe not worldwide. And people on TikTok, if you want to go down the deep dive,
Mm-hmm.
like look up like leaving MAGA, MAGA,
Yeah.
and see all these people be like, I made a mistake. And you're like, okay, great. I'm glad you're admitting it. Now do the work. Now let's fix it. Now
Mm-hmm.
let's stop
Mm-hmm.
bitching at the liberals or calling them, libtards or whatever you say. And let's like unify and, like figure out how to fix this.
Yeah.
But, to get Khan twice, to vote for him twice, which a lot of people have,
Yep.
it's it is an amazing thing to me where I'm like, I don't get it. And I will lose my mind banging my head against a wall trying to figure it out.
Like honestly, same. Like it's
Yeah,
it's insane. Like technically three times because like he did lose in 2020, even though he will not admit it that he lost to this day. He
I
still
know.
has not conceded that election because of
Such a
course
dick.
it was stolen. It was stolen. It was stolen. Okay,
It was
okay, it was
stolen.
stolen. Yes,
No.
I have no proof, but it was stolen. So like that's the great defense. And
Yeah, let's listen to someone who lies, like is a serial liar. Like, no, he's never going to admit it.
but I heard like a great thing, like I think by John Oliver, like it's the principle of thousand nails, where like he lies about so many things, where
Hmm.
not one sticks out as much. So like like people who support him are like, oh yeah, we know he's like exaggerates, we know like he's like boosts, like we get it, but we can tell he's in our corner. So when he says these things. We know, like we don't take him seriously, but we do take him seriously. We don't take him literally. We do take him seriously because we believe he's in our corner. And I'm
It's
like,
almost like
how?
somebody who's talking about an abuser. They're like, I know that they say mean things to me and they hit me sometimes, but they're really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And they, sometimes then the bruises go away. We go have dinner and I'm like, what the fuck? Like
Yep.
it will never make sense to me. But I think now what's going on now, I think these people who thought that they were being supported, I really have hope that they're going to be like, oh my God, he's not for us and he's fucking up. Because he's not great. He doesn't, it's not like, oh, he's done all these bad things, but he's really good at his job.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's not even good at being a real estate agent or whatever the fuck he was, real estate developer.
Mm-hmm.
He's not good at being a husband. He's not good. I mean, I could go on. But yes, he's a felon. There's all these things. So I'm like, no, he's not even good. He's doing all these things that are hurting you and everybody. So I still have, and this is my manifestation. I have a visual in my head of him in orange because that's his color,
Of course.
in shackles. So he's like shuffling,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then handcuffs with something happened to his hair, and it's not like the normal hair, and it's like gone, so we can see what's happening
Mm-hmm.
really underneath all that. And he's just shuffling along, and so I keep looking at him as this like sad felon who's shuffling along to jail.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want him to die. I'm not one of those haters. It's like fucking die. I want him to go have consequences and his kids can hopefully live on and maybe change their name or something so that they can have a life and they'll visit him in jail.
Mhm.
And I don't know. That's what I think. That's my visualization.
I think that would be the most dangerous thing if he died.
I
And
do
I've said
too.
this, and I've said this for a while. Ever since that failed assassination attempt, that was quite dodgy, to be honest. Like there are quite a few
Which I
things
think
that,
was all, I think that was all staged. As a person
again,
in the entertainment industry, I was like, this is really bad
I don't want to be
television.
like I don't want to be like people on his side where everything they don't like is somehow against rigged against them. Like no, I'm not like, but it was kind of dodgy. But hey, okay, but he survived. But even then,
Yes.
when I said, like I was talking to one person in New Jersey, and I said I'm so actually happy he survived, even though I don't like him, because
Yeah,
imagine
me too.
like the worst thing that for you guys, for Americans, that can happen right now he dies like peacefully in his sleep tomorrow, right? Let's say he dies like he's not the youngest person and he's not the
Yeah.
healthiest living person. So
No,
even
Diet
if he
Coke
dies
button.
like in sleep, right? Do you not believe in a couple of hours it's gonna be like this was Kamala, this was Biden, this was the Democrats, this was like a corporate, this was the deep state to getting finally got him, and we need to now fight back harder than ever. He would become a martyr like within minutes because
Yeah, you're
no
not
matter
wrong. I
how he
think it would be
goes, no
I
matter
think it
how he
would be
goes.
scary. And with the assassination attempt, I'm really sad that there was a father that was at the that
Hmm.
was shot. The
Yeah.
bullet missed and hit this guy and he died.
Hmm.
I think about stuff like that and I'm like, that's so but I also I think it was totally staged for him to be like, "Meh," because in all
That.
the assassination attempts of people who are president in our country, no one was ever allowed to stand up and go "Meh," like this
Hmm.
and put your hand up and like blood is on you. And I was like, it's such a, he's a reality television person. So I'm like, it feels so reality television. So there's that. But also, yes, if he died or if he dies while in office, the vice president is horrendous too.
JD Vance,
That's
yeah.
his, yeah, JD Vance is horrible too. Like awful. But yes, we don't want him to be a martyr. We don't want him to be, I want him to die slowly, in chains in jail. No, I mean I don't, but I only say that because yes, there's a lot of terrible people in the world doing terrible things.
Hmm.
I don't
Hmm.
necessarily wish the worst on them, but I don't because of what it would do to the people who follow him here. I don't know. I don't know if it would incite a riot again.
I don't know if it would incite the riot, but I think it would the hardcore, like the actual hardcore MAGAs, the actual
Mhm.
proper super duper hardcore people. Again, he would become a martyr, and they I think that would actually be the last straw that breaks the camel's back. I don't know how exactly, but that's
Yeah,
why I'm like, as much as I don't like him, I said this several times. I really hope he lives for the next like 20 years
till
and
he's
like
really
die
old and
and once like his name is but a faded memory, and we all kind of hopefully have moved past this. Then it's gonna
well,
be like, oh yeah, he died of old age. It's fine.
I I think we have to let go of the fact that his name may not ever fade,
I
like
know.
Hitler.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's been a long time. Um,
But I hope the emotions around that name and around MAGA would hopefully
yeah.
fade away eventually. Because if he
I
dies
think
again
there will be
tomorrow,
I
mm-mm.
think there will like there's the Ku Klux Klan. There's always going to be the crazies who are
Yeah.
like forever with their MAGA hats and all that
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and I say let them, as long as they're not hurting anybody. If they're years from now are like still, I'd be like, okay, uh, you do anything, we're going to arrest you and all that stuff. Obviously,
Hmm.
I'm not saying like let them be racist, crazy people, but I'm saying there are still people who are Nazi worshipers in this world,
Hmm. Unfortunately.
uh,
Yep.
sadly. And we can't focus on them. We got to focus on creating good and unifying in the world. And I know it just keeps sounding so granola and all that stuff. It's not very, it doesn't sound like a very strong choice, but it's not being complacent. It's just not, there's enough hate in the world. And I feel
Hmm.
like that hate of MAGA is going to be there for as long as they want to hold on to it.
Hmm.
I think it's actually really sad. It's a sad, I look at those red hats and I'm like, God, it's such a sad thing to be
Hmm.
that. But anyway,
It is, no,
that's
it
my,
is. But I also like how you know, e equate anything like liberal or like hippie to granola. This is the
I
second
know it's a
time,
granola
and
and
I'm like,
Birkenstocks. That's my, I just think of somebody in Berkeley because I grew up near Berkeley where you're like granola and Birkenstocks and your hippie outfit and you're like free love and you're putting up your peace sign.
hmm
Which back then, during the Vietnam War and all of that that was going on, all that hate, all that, so I go back to that because it is a symbol of like, oh, hippie love and all that stuff, but it's I think a better choice.
hmm
Um, it's not being complacent and just sitting around and smoking pot. It's although we all in America might need to do that for the
Yep.
next 4 years, but it is choosing love over hate and being
hmm
having your voice still be heard, but having it not be one of like hate. And understand the children are watching, the next generation are watching. So if you are somebody who supported Trump, you're going to go down as somebody who was a part of that. And I am so glad to know that I get to, as I'm in my rocking chair with my kids, tell them, no, I never did. In fact, I tried my best to always speak against it
hmm
and speak towards what we should be doing and what is good for the country and the world and support the Ukraine and things like
hmm
that.
hmm
So
No, 100%. Okay, so I think since we now fixed all the issues, all the world issues,
everything's fixed.
yes. Go home, guys. Everything is fine now. It's all good, all good. I think now we can move to the Flix part of the podcast where we finally talk some movies. What do you think?
I think it's awesome. I'm excited and I'm ready.
All right. So now I'll ask you, Meredith, what is the last new movie you would rate 5 out of 5? So anything 2020s.
The last new movie.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, I just lost my notes. What happened? No, don't go away. I'm sorry. Hold on.
It's all right.
You might have to cut this out.
Nah, it's all good. All good.
No, I have so this is where I'm showing my old self, meaning like I'm old trying to work my computer because now I can't I just had all my notes up and now I can't find them. Um, I'm so sorry. 1 second.
All good. No, it's all good. You need to be like that, like one reporter, like, yeah, you know what? Fuck it, we're doing it live. Let's go live.
Okay, we're doing it. God, that one. What is that guy's name?
I
That
don't know.
one
I only know that
reporter.
meme. It's like, fuck it, we're doing live. It's and it
Fuck
was
it, we're
actually
doing it
live.
live.
It was so funny.
He used to be, he was really like political commentator and like,
Mhm.
so Bill O'Reilly, that's his name.
Was it him? Holy
Yes,
shit.
Bill O'Reilly. Where did he
Mm,
go? Away. He went away.
yeah.
Well, I'm a member of Screen Actors Guild, and that is so the SAG Awards. I usually get
hmm
what's called screeners, and since becoming a parent, it's harder for me to, my kids are getting older now. I can leave them at home sometimes. It's harder for me to get out to the movies, so I
Yeah.
would watch screeners. Well, I didn't get my screeners this past year, so I haven't seen a lot of the new stuff.
Okay.
Which is really unfortunate because I really want to see the Demi Moore movie. I really want to see, I mean, I love seeing everything.
hmm
The last new movie that I really, and this is not a new movie at all, but 2020, I think you said 2020,
Yes. Yeah.
from 2020 on,
hmm
um, that I thought was so important and so mind-blowingly awesome that I actually cried. I think it actually came out before 2020,
Okay.
but you'll give me a pass on this one.
Of course. Hit me with it.
Black Panther.
Oh,
Black
yeah. hmm
The
Yeah.
movie Black Panther. So I have I basically was like watching this movie and just getting so excited with the fact that like if you're an African American actor and you were not in this film, you're kicking yourself. Like you
hmm
didn't get that's where you're like, I didn't get this film. But the just what it did for the culture, like just African American culture in general, to me, I thought was just amazing. But it was so well done.
hmm
I thought it was just one of the best superhero movies that I had seen in a long time.
hmm
I just watched it again with my kids and like, I don't know. And also Chadwick Boseman, who is now no longer passed away so young.
Yep.
When I was in
Unfortunately.
LA, he uh he went to the same grocery store that I went to. So I'd
Nice.
see him every once in a while. And I just thought he was such a phenomenal actor. And he's so good. He's Shakespearean trained. He started
Mhm.
in theater. but just such an amazing person, actor, all of it. But yes, I for me, I just that's my first thought was Black Panther. I have 100 movies I could have mentioned, but I don't know why this one just stuck out for me. So
Well, it is still to this day, if I'm not mistaken, the only comic book movie to be nominated for Best Picture. So,
yes, you're right.
that's that. And no, yeah, it's
You're right.
great. It's such a shame. Like I still remember when the news hit that he passed away, like Chadwick
Yeah.
passed away, and I think it's now gonna be what 6 years? Like it's gonna be soon.
He passed away in 2020. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
it's
did.
insane. And I'm like, what? That cannot be true. Like I was like, Black Panther passed to no, that cannot be true. Like what the? And then then we learned that he was battling cancer for the last like 4 years or so,
Yeah,
quietly. Like pretty much nobody knew except for his like very close people. I'm like, holy fucking shit. I can't imagine like
I know.
doing what he did, leading this franchise, and battling that on a side. Like I'm just it's
While battling cancer, I know. And it's
yeah.
an amazing physical role
Mm-hmm.
to play.
Mm-hmm.
But you
Mm-hmm.
think about going back to him playing Jackie Robinson, also a physical role to play, and then going back and playing, James Brown,
Mm-hmm.
huge physical role to play.
Mm-hmm.
And just, but yes, Black Panther. I mean, I could talk about that movie just alone, but that
Yeah.
all of the actors in that film were phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And what
No.
it did for the culture just was incredible. And just
Mm-hmm.
thank God that movie was made, but also Black Panther 2, I think it's called Wakanda Forever.
Yes.
Anyway, love it. I love
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
whole franchise. So
No,
I don't
that's
know why that's my first one. That's my first thought was that. I love that movie. So yes.
no, that's a great choice, to be honest. Great choice. All right. So what is the last quote unquote teen movie you would rate 5 out of 5? So anything between 2003 and 2019. So technically Black Panther would fall here, but you know what? It's fine. Like,
It's
we
fine.
can
I know I said give me a pass.
no, yeah.
Yeah, no, I this is going to be a strange choice, but I love the movie Napoleon Dynamite. That
Nice.
is a movie that I saw, independent film, not a lot of money to go
Mm-hmm.
into that
Mm-hmm.
movie, getting that movie made. I completely and totally still laugh out loud. It's like listening to a really great album. You know the songs,
Mm-hmm.
I know what's coming, but I
Yeah.
just can't stop watching it because it's just so funny. All of the actors, all of the casting in that film,
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing it, I think it came out in 2004. So it's like
Yeah.
early on. I just was like, you know what? This is a perfect example of you are, a very specific type and you wrote this, this character for yourself and you're brilliant at it. And it's just such a funny slice of life and such a kind of we all know those people in America,
Mm-hmm.
here in America. We all know the people that live in those like very small towns and do nothing but like sell makeup and like try to be football stars and all the things that movie has. Anyway, that was my first thought. I don't know. I love that movie. I looked at like
Mm-hmm.
the movies that came out during that decade and I was like, Napoleon Dynamite. I got to
That's
talk
a
about that.
That's a very solid choice. I've only seen it once. I don't have that attachment that you have. Like I've only seen it once and I really liked it. And I thought I need to rewatch it at some point because I didn't love it as many people around me did.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I see why it's such a quirky and unique. And as you said, that's a like clear example of somebody. I mean, like oh, I've been told I need to write what I know, and I know this. Let me write this and see if people like it. And it became this like cult, like hit where
Yeah.
nowadays it's part of almost like a vocabulary in a way. It was like Napoleon Dynamite. Oh yes, I know exactly what you mean. Like
Yeah.
even
I
before
just saw
I seen the
somebody.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw somebody the other day with the shirt "Vote for Pedro," and I just
Mm-hmm.
started laughing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's like, and I also just yeah, the acting is phenomenal. The humor is exactly my humor, that
Mm-hmm.
circumstantial humor where you're just in that situation and you're just like, like my husband and I do it all the time. We'll do that like, oh God, like that kind of voice that he says. We'll
Yeah.
do it out of nowhere and just start laughing. So yes, Napoleon Dynamite is my choice.
Solid.
Second choice.
Very solid. So what would be the last quote unquote adult movie you would rate 5 out of 5? So anything between 2002 and 1975.
Oh, my year of birth, 1975. You know, when you said adult movie, this in your
Mhm.
show notes to me, I was like, okay, it's this kind of podcast. I didn't realize I was going into that. But then obviously you
Yes.
were like, no, okay,
No.
Meredith, get your mind out of the gutter. I'm gonna say,
Hmm.
and this is a big span of time. So I'm like,
Hmm.
this is 25 years. Back to the Future. That's also a solid choice. I'm a kid of the 80s. That
Hmm.
trilogy
Hmm.
is huge,
Hmm.
hugely like connected to my childhood. But I know it seems like, it's not like I don't know, it's Back to the Future. It's like a huge box office hit. It's
Hmm.
very much like feels like kind of like a pop movie, meaning like it's very 80s, but I think when you actually dissect that movie, the casting was not that way in the beginning. It was Eric Stoltz was actually
Yep.
playing the lead, not Michael
Yes,
J. Fox. And
famously.
it's like,
Yep.
who could ever see anyone else but Michael J. Fox? And all the way down to like the guy who plays Biff. Everybody in that movie is brilliant. And I love it. So that was like, I don't know. I just was like, I think Back to the Future.
Hmm. And funny enough, who like Biff in the sequel is based on Donald Trump. Like, when they go to the
We go back
2015.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. That's right. You're right. Actually, if you watch Back to the Future 2,
Yep.
woo, you'll see that connection. You'll see
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
oh, that's so frightening to think of. Yes. Oh, I know.
They've
You
said
just
it
want to
even
get that out of your head.
before. Yeah, like they've said it even before he ran for president that that character is loosely based on him, and I'm like, yeah, that
Makes
tracks.
sense.
That that tracks,
That
and
tracks. The hair tracks. Everything tracks.
yeah.
And also, so it's like Back to the Future and The Simpsons. They both knew
Mm.
that Donald Trump was going to be
Oh yeah, the Lisa,
doing what he's
the
doing.
line from Lisa. We inherited quite a budget, quite a deficit from President Trump. Yeah, Simpsons
Exactly.
always know they always know somehow what's gonna happen.
They know they are the future holders.
Hmm. No, but Back to
The
the Future,
Simpsons.
such a staple.
Another solid choice.
That's a
Yes.
staple. Like to me, like that's one of those American movies that you always hear about, even before you see it, because it's such a big staple in the cinema. And then you watch it, but it's one of those that doesn't disappoint. Like I watched it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I see why. Even though I prefer the third one, I'm one of the few ones that I like the third one the most, I think. But it's like
I
splitting
like the third
hairs.
one too.
I
No,
like.
I actually like the second one the least.
Oh really?
And
Okay.
maybe it's because the Trump thing is in there. That's probably what it is. Um, but yes, I think it's really and we could do a whole thing just on trilogies.
Hmm.
That trilogy is like so nicely wrapped up. And the third one, I really love it. I love the way that they intertwine everything. I love the
Hmm.
Western, I love all of it. And it's so sentimental. And then you've got Doc falling in love and all of that stuff. Um, and then there's the Indiana Jones trilogy. Those are the two trilogies that we have now introduced to our sons as a rite of passage. You
Hmm.
must know these trilogies as
Yes.
well as us. So that's like in our house, like those are the two trilogies that,
And famously, they haven't made any Jones past the third one, so which is good. Like it's so good
yes,
they stick to just with the three movies. Excellent choice. Excellent.
because you can ruin it. Rocky is great, but
Yes.
Rocky I think goes too far. I think there's too many Rockies.
Yes. 100%. And
So
what would be the
yes.
last quote unquote old movie you would rate a 5 out of 5? So anything 1974 and older.
Also a really
Yes.
big span
Very.
of time. And
Very.
I have so many that I could say, but
Mm-hmm.
I've already mentioned this movie already, and it is
Mm.
literally my favorite movie from the time I was 5 years old. Singing in the Rain,
Of
the
course.
MGM movie musical, the classic.
It
I
is.
can watch it. I know it like the back of my hand, but I can watch it now and still get emotional and feel those full body chills of like just all the moments, the Broadway melody with Gene Kelly, and of course Gene Hagen won the Oscar for Lena Lamont, that role that she so brilliantly played.
Mm-hmm.
Debbie Reynolds, of course, and Donald O'Connor, and even down to like, the studio owners, like the people who play the voice speech when they're doing Moses Suppose's tap dance, which is I've learned that tap dance as a tap dancer. It's one of the hardest tap dances to do.
Nice.
Um, yeah, Singing in the Rain. So I could go to all the movie musicals that Fred and Ginger, going all the way back to The Jazz
Hmm.
Singer, which is the first movie with sound and all of it. But yes, Singing in the Rain, MGM movie musical. If you
That's
haven't seen it, you're missing out. It's
100%.
actually AFI's top 100. It's in the top 100
Hmm.
movies of all time.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. Yes. No, it's yet again like an excellent choice, and that's one of those I've only watched once, long time ago when I started my movie
No.
journey. My movie journey, because as you mentioned, yes, and like I am kind of like a list-based person. I trying to watch like all the best of the best movies,
Yeah.
right? And like when I got to that one, I'm like, all right, let's see it. And I remember still even my teenage dumbass still thought this was an excellent movie, and I was like, damn, this was awesome. And I need to rewatch it because it's been so like it must be like almost 2 decades now, to be honest, since I
And if you
watched it.
watch it again, you watch it on the with the technology that we have now and the
Hmm.
Technicolor advancements that they've done on the
Yep.
film, if you get it,
Yep.
it's just even better. And I know some people be like, it's so cheesy. And I'm like, no,
Hmm.
I love tap dancing and singing. And I feel like in this day and age, like with a Wicked,
Hmm. Hmm.
watch Wicked and then go all the way back to Singing in the Rain and watch that and go, yes, this was a movie that was, the golden age of Hollywood. That was the time for the golden age of Hollywood was really to lift people up out of the darkness of all the crap going on in the world. And that's basically what movie musicals started doing. That was the vaudeville circuit, and all of it was
Hmm.
let's go for 2 hours, forget about all the shit in the world, and let's go watch people tap dance in bright colors and all that
Hmm.
fun stuff. So that's the mindset you have to be in when you see it. You're not gonna, it's not like,
Yep.
some dark Alfred Hitchcock movie.
No.
It's not Vertigo.
Hmm. Hmm. And no, and to your point, like you need to watch it like with now with like all the adjustments and all that, or not adjustments, like all the improvements. As a person who
Yeah.
collects physical media and Blu-rays, and I collect Blu-rays 4Ks, I definitely would like to purchase that 4K because I want to see it as like as pristine as possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, have you managed to see the movie Babylon?
I have not. I have not seen it
Oh,
yet.
okay.
I
I'm not gonna.
know. I've got so much work to do.
That's fine. I'm not gonna. I was gonna
No
ask.
spoilers.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna spoil it for you. But like what is it about? So it's like about old Hollywood. So there
Hmm.
might be something in the rain connection. So I was gonna ask you about that. But okay, if you haven't,
I'm gonna
let's
love
not.
it, and I maybe I can come back on the podcast when I watch it because I'm gonna love it. I know
It's.
I know a lot about old Hollywood just because of my own geekiness with that era and just
Hmm.
loving dance on film and all those things, but also just the era of film noir and
Hmm.
silent
Hmm.
movies versus when sound came in and all those things. So I'm gonna love it. I probably will have wished that I was in it
Hmm.
first when I see it.
Just brace yourself because it's the movie is a lot and it throws a lot into your face. Not it's
Okay.
sometimes not pleasant, but like that's what I really appreciated about that movie. It doesn't sugarcoat that like 20s and 30s because like often we think about, oh yeah, those were the good times, quote unquote, where everybody was like nice and polite and clean, and they show you
No.
how wild people have even been like 200 years ago. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah,
Well,
they
I'll
were.
tell you, I do have a little bit of insight with that because I was friends with Ann Miller. I talk about doing follies with her earlier, and Annie kind of gave me a little bit of insight as to the Hollywood parties that would happen at the Hertz Castle, which is a very, famous castle that like they would go to away
Hmm.
from LA to party and be crazy. And the
Hmm.
studio system used to hide everything. It wasn't a
Yep.
day where there was media and there were not press, like that there was no paparazzi. It didn't, everything was controlled. So it was just as crazy. It was just as all the things, but it was hidden from everyone. Even their
Correct.
real names and their hairdo and all that stuff was all curated from the studio system, which sounds could be awful, but also could be awesome because you
Hmm.
get to
Hmm.
be a separate person from your Hollywood self, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Speaking of, I'm so glad you reminded me that you actually worked with Ann Miller. She
Hmm.
is in my one of my favorite movies of all time, Mulholland Drive, as her
Oh my
last
gosh.
role. Yep.
Yes, that's her
Everybody calls
last
me Coco.
role.
Yes, everybody, just call
Ah,
me Coco. Everybody loves, everybody calls me Coco. And I'm like, I just
well,
rewatched
it's
it.
funny. When I first came to LA, people said that I look like Naomi Watts, that I look like her younger, like
A
if there was
bit.
ever, yeah, if there was ever a role to
Hmm.
play her younger sister. And that's the first time I ever saw her was Mulholland Drive. And I loved her in that. And I knew that was Annie's last
Hmm.
role.
Hmm.
Yeah. And she was such a spitfire. She was such a great, amazing woman
Hmm.
who didn't have to be friends with me. I was just a 21-year-old kid who was in a show with her, and she gave me her phone number, and I called her on the phone. This is going back to my feel the fear and do it anyway. I called Ann Miller on her home phone and I said, "Hi, is Miss Miller there?" And she goes, "Honey, it's me." And she just would answer the phone and we would talk, and she would answer all my questions about movie musicals and the old movie musical days. She didn't have to do any of that. She could have been
Hmm.
like, get out of here and never talk to me again. But she did. She came to see me on Broadway. She came to see me as Peggy Sawyer, which was the hardest tap dancing role I've ever done.
Hmm.
We had a friendship for 8 years until she passed away. She was a phenomenal woman.
That
And
must have been awesome.
it was really awesome. Yeah. So if
Wow.
you have never seen Ann Miller dance on film, please go and dive deep into that.
I definitely need to study more of her filmography. I only seen a couple of her movies, so like definitely need to fill those gaps because
Yeah.
I love any kind of movies, like old, new, like any. Just give it to me all. Give me. Like
Yeah.
that's basically my philosophy. Well, so okay, but that brings me to my next question. What do you think is your favorite movie decade?
Oh gosh.
I
Well, I'm a
know.
kid of the 80s, so I don't know.
Okay.
I'm going to say the 80s. I'm going to say the 80s because
Mm-hmm.
John Hughes was my favorite screenwriter director. I'm such
Nice.
a huge John Hughes fan. And if you don't know who John Hughes is, you know The Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, Ferris Bueller's Day Off,
Mm-hmm.
Pretty in Pink, Uncle Buck, Planes,
Home
Trains and
Alone.
Automobiles. Yes, Home Alone, of course. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he is iconic, and it changed how, because I was a teenager at the time. I was a little younger. I remember I couldn't even go see The Breakfast Club at the theater because I wasn't old enough yet, and I was so mad.
Mm-hmm.
But he, that decade, and him as a director and a screenwriter, he really wrote about, honestly, about the experience of being a kid and being in a small town. And he wrote what he know, you write what you know. He wrote what he knew, and but it's just so funny and so poignant. And yes, he put, Home Alone has Trump in it, so sorry. It's the
Only
only
the
thing I
second
don't
one.
like.
Only the
Thank
second
you.
one.
Maybe he had passed away by then. I don't know. It wasn't his decision. Um, I know we always have to, everything has to go back to him. But I would say the 80s,
Okay.
and because of John Hughes. Those
Hmm.
are all those movies I've seen. Home Alone I've seen. I watch it because my husband watches it. When he's on tour with Trans-Siberian Orchestra, we watch kind of some similar movies together, and he watches Home Alone, and we cry at the moment, which I won't, if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, where like the old man,
Yeah.
reunites,
Yeah.
and you're like, he's looking out the window and it's like the music, da da
Mm-hmm.
da
Yeah.
da, and you're like,
John Williams. Yeah.
crying. Yeah,
Hmm. It's
in
insane.
classic John Hughes way.
Yeah. And it's also insane that movie not only has John Hughes, but another legendary John Williams, like composing a
Yes,
soundtrack for that, which is like
you're
he
right.
didn't have to go that hard for a Christmas movie, but he did. And one
He's
of the
John
best,
Williams.
yes, one of the best Christmas movies ever. Probably
I
my favorite because I grew up on it, so I'm
Yes,
a bit
no,
biased.
and mine is, and I'm not this old, but mine is It's a Wonderful Life,
Of
because
course.
my
That's
mother used to watch that every holiday, and I just love
hmm
Jimmy Stewart. And
hmm
um
hmm
but yeah, John Williams. So this is a whole other podcast episode about
Yeah.
composers, because John
Yep.
Williams is my favorite. And
Hmm.
my friend Ryan Shore, who's a composer, his uncle is Howard Shore, who's also a,
Oh.
a brilliant, yeah, he's a
Hmm.
brilliant film score composer. And when I was talking to Ryan about John Williams years ago, I was like, "Oh, I love John Williams," and da 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 da. But I called him Barry Williams. Out of nowhere, I just went Barry Williams, and I went, "Wait, that's the actor from the Brady Bunch. That's not the right person." So now every time I talk about John Williams, I call him Barry. So it doesn't make any sense to anyone else except for Ryan and I. But I love John Barry Williams.
John
I
Barry,
love
yeah, that's his middle name. No, not many
maybe it
people
is.
know. Not many people know that's his middle name. No, but
Uh,
like to your point about John Hughes, like you're absolutely right. Like he was so influential. I still remember when he passed away. I don't remember the year, but I remember the Oscar did a special tribute that like the following year just for his movies. There was like a cut of all of his movies, and then look all the five major stars, including like Macaulay Culkin and like Ali Shear and all that. They stepped
Molly
out and like
Ringwald and all. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And they talked about briefly, about what he meant for them, and like they paid respect to his family that was there. And I was like, damn, Oscars just stopped in their tracks to honor this one man because he was so influential in the
So
80s and
influential.
90s. Like it's
It's
that.
amazing. I mean, the movies that he did, because you go, oh, maybe if I get one hit movie out of
Hmm.
my
Hmm.
life, that's big. That's a huge thing.
Yep.
And to his is like it's woven into so many kids,
Hmm.
and it doesn't matter what decade, if you're a Home Alone person or you're like Breakfast Club for me
Yep. Yep.
or Pretty in Pink. I mean, Jake Ryan, if you say the name Jake Ryan to women that are my age, they're like, "Oh my God, Jake Ryan." That's
Hmm.
the name of the boyfriend in 16 Candles, by the way,
I
with the
see.
Porsche at the end when she's like, "Hi," and then me, and you turn around and she's like, and then he goes and opens the door, and they're like, "This is the guy." That's Jake Ryan. So
Hmm.
say certain names, they're woven into the fabric of our culture because of him. And I
100%.
think John Hughes was like 53 when he died. I think he died of a heart attack. I don't remember. I did cry when he died. I do
Hmm.
remember that.
Hmm.
I do
No, he
remember
was
that.
fairly young-ish. Also, like he was not
Yes.
like that, like old of a person, quote unquote, to die. So it was quite shocking when he passed away. And I was like, wow, and
It
what a
was it
legacy.
was really shocking. I'll tell you one story connected to John
Hmm.
Hughes. When I
Tell
was
me.
in New York and I was starring on Broadway and I was in my the side of the Ford Center. It was called the Ford Center at the time, the theater.
Hmm.
My dressing room was facing Jonathan Freeman, who, if you don't know who that is a brilliant actor, but he's also the voice of Jafar in Aladdin.
Hmm.
So I was really close to his dressing room. I used to always go in there and say, tell me something, say something as Jafar. And he would, it would appease me and do it every once in a while. So we were really good friends and still are to this day. But during our lunch break or in between shows, we would have our doors propped open. And at the time, Matthew Broderick was doing the producers down the street.
Hmm.
And he
Hmm.
would come over to our theater and have sushi and hang out with Jonathan, who is his friend. And I didn't know this until one day I opened up my dressing room to just have our doors facing each other. And so I could talk to him and as Jafar. And I see Matthew Broderick is right there. And I'd never met him before. And I was like, oh my God, it's Ferris Bueller. And I just was such an idiot. I closed the door really fast. And then I opened it again and they were like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not okay. I was like, you're Ferris Bueller. I was such an idiot. I was 25, so give me
Hmm.
a little bit of slack. But he was so sweet to me about it. And like, he'd done that movie when he was 19 and I don't know how old he was at the time, but like he'd heard so many people come up to him over and over again.
Yeah.
I got to know Matthew a little bit through those lunches and he would appease me as well. So I had like Jafar and then I had Ferris Bueller, like
Hmm.
every once in a while, just saying like, bits from the movies that they were in. And it was just my John Hughes self was like giddy, excited.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great combo, by the way. Jafar and Ferris Bueller. Like that's a great combo to
Such
have
a
at your
weird
disposal.
combo. I know. If I had a podcast back then, I would have had them both on at the same time.
That'd be awesome. And see, like to your point about Matthew Broderick, like that's what he said during that like tribute to him. You know, oh, it's only because of John Hughes. There is not a day in my life that somebody comes to me on a street and is like Bueller,
Bueller.
Bueller,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
appreciate it to this day or something like that. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. It's just so
It's so life-changing. He changed a lot of people's lives, really, a lot of actors' lives in a good
100%,
way. So, yay to
100%.
John Hughes and the 80s.
Great choice. Great. No, I'm that was a great discussion. Do you have any movie hot takes you willing to share with us?
Hottest movie takes
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
two. This is also going to go to the 80s and it's
Okay.
also going to go to an independent film.
Hmm.
Not supposed to be a big budget film, a film that if you ever go to the backstory took a long time to get done and a lot of people said no to this film.
Hmm.
It's when Baby and Johnny get together for the first time in Dirty Dancing.
Okay.
And it's not like a super crazy, you know, shades of gray kind of like sexy moment. But for me and this like still to this day, I watch this scene of them getting
Mm-hmm.
together. And first of all, Patrick Swayze is super hot.
Mm-hmm.
But he's shirtless, he's in jeans, they're dancing together. And I think like there's a moment, and also the soundtrack for this is so woven into the movie. And she walks around him. They're just dancing together. They're dirty dancing, first of all. Dirty dancing at the age I was when I was watching this was like, I was like 13. So I was like, whew, feeling all the feels,
Yep. Yep.
I was like, oh, what's happening? And in this moment, when she finally gets together with him, as a dancer myself, like guys who are dancers or can move well on the floor, it's just something super extra layer sexy
Mm-hmm.
right there. But she walks around him and she like touches his butt as
Mm-hmm.
she walks around, like gently. She doesn't pinch it. She just kind of puts her hand over it. And it's so freaking hot. It's so like, oh my God, she just touched his ass. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's so, so even just thinking about it, if you haven't seen this movie, and I spoiler alert, Johnny and Baby get together, but it's just one, it's such a good scene. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit, I'd say a little bit virginal for me to say, like, oh, that's not like a super hot, sexy scene.
Yeah.
Not like Basic Instinct. Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
could have picked that,
I
but I
do
don't
like
think.
how you interpreted this question so literally. I was
Oh no,
I
what
was
was it
thinking
supposed to be? Oh
usually people say like I don't care about like Marvel movies or stuff like that.
no.
But you took it very literally and I think that's the first. So like I do appreciate
Oh
that.
my gosh, I'm the first person. Well, what is
Yes.
it? The hottest? Do you mean like as in like fire behind people? Like it's hot.
Or,
What did you?
usually no, I usually try to, like again like, something that's popular, you don't really care for it. Like, that's why that's what it makes it like a hot take. Like, but it's for movies specifically. But we can go with your interpretation because I do like that as well. Because
I don't get
what
the
it means
lingo of
for
the
you, like
kids nowadays.
no, but again, like the way you justified it and what it meant for you and why it was the way it was for you, that scene, I really like. I was on there, like with you, like the entire way. So like honestly,
Does it
all
make you want
good.
to go see? Does it make you want to go see that scene again?
I've seen that movie. So, fun fact, there was a one summer where my sister, I have a sister that's almost younger than me, one year
Mhm.
younger than me. And there was a one summer where she was obsessed with that movie, probably from the same reason as you were. And I think
Yes.
she was also around 12, 13 at the time. So
Welcome
probably
to
the same age.
adolescence.
Yes.
Yes.
So there was one summer break where I watched that movie like properly once every day because of her for a month.
Oh,
I'm
so
not
you
even
know it just
joking.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, just by association, you know it just as well as me.
I'm not even joking. Every single day, she would always play it at least once. And I'm like, holy shit. That's a lot.
You're like, really? Again? But
Again,
yes,
there's so
Baby
many.
and Johnny.
We have so many different, VHSs, cassette tapes back in the
Okay,
day.
so here, what is Baby's real name?
Oh, you mean like the actress? I
No,
know
not
the
the
actress is
actress.
Jennifer Grey.
The actress is Jennifer
Oh,
Grey. Did she have her new nose or her old nose?
I think it's the old nose, if I'm not mistaken.
Old nose. Going back to John Hughes, was she in a
Mhm.
John Hughes film?
I think she was, wasn't, was she
We mentioned
was,
that film a few times.
was it 16 Candles?
No,
No.
close. She was the sister
Mm-hmm.
of
Bueller. Ferris Bueller.
Ferris
Yeah,
Bueller.
yes. But I cannot
But
remember her
also, but
name.
also, what was her real name? What was
I'm
baby's
thinking.
baby's real
Baby,
name in
Dirty Dancing. Now
they
you
say
got
it
me.
twice in the film. So she says it when they're in bed together, and that
Mm-hmm.
scene I was talking about, right? That's when
Mm-hmm.
she says when he goes, "What's your real name?" And she says, after the first lady in the cabinet, she
Mm-hmm.
says the name. And then when he says, "Don't put baby in a corner," that scene, the last scene where, the famous lift and all the things,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when he's on the mic and he's talking about how I always do the last dance, and someone told me this year I couldn't do it. And then, then he introduces her
Hmm.
as Miss
I cannot remember. Tell me.
Frances Houseman.
Yes,
Frances, that's her
Francis.
real name. I know. This is my movie buff brain.
That's
That's okay.
Francis Houseman. Yes. See, when you said it like
Frances Houseman.
immediately, it's like, oh yeah, duh. To be fair, ever since that summer, it's been a minute since I've seen it because like I've
It
seen it
sounds like
once many
torture, but it
times.
also sounds like torture and trauma. So you put it back in the recesses of your brain. Like, please don't ask me any questions about this movie that my sister was obsessed with.
I don't know if she's still obsessed with it, by the way, but I think she still has a like kind of like you, like a sweet spot for it because of, she would see it every single day that one summer. So
If she listens to your podcast, she's now going to or she's going to want to go back and watch it
nah, she
just
doesn't.
because of this conversation. And
She doesn't. She doesn't care.
come
I
on,
can say
sister,
that.
listen to your brother's podcast. Okay.
No, but that's all. That was awesome. That was awesome. So I think now, because of that, we can move to the underrated part of this podcast, where I'll ask you,
Yes.
Meredith, who do you think is the most underrated actor we have right now?
Well, this actor has an Oscar, so I don't know if
Okay.
he's underrated. He is, I just feel like I just love him, and I don't know why he's not more of a like screaming at him celebrity.
Hmm.
Gary Oldman,
Ah.
the actor Gary Oldman. I just feel like he's so brilliant. He's played so
Hmm.
many, different characters.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. That was my first thought. And I also spent one rainstorm with him in Central Park. I got stuck
Of course you would.
in a
Yes.
I know, of course. And I was like I was no, I hadn't done anything at the time. And I think we both ran under an awning at the same time
Hmm.
because it was one of those East Coast rainstorms that just came out of nowhere and it was the summertime. And I'm in my flip-flops. And I turn to the right and I look and I'm like, oh my God, it's Gary Oldman. And I'd only seen like Dracula at the time.
Hmm.
And it's like, welcome to my house. And
Yes.
that was the first thing that went into my head as I looked at him. And I don't think I said anything to him other than like, I think you're a good actor or something stupid. But I thought in my head, all I thought was, welcome to my house. So stupid. But yes, that's my choice. Gary Oldman.
I think I actually do agree with you in a sense where he is like it's to me it's mad I think he only has one Oscar nomination, one win, and
Yeah.
that's it. Like it wasn't until like I think Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy he was nominated even. Like it was like
Yeah.
quite recent where he got his first one. And I remember him being on like Jimmy Kimmel show and he asked him about it and he said so like Jimmy asked him, so out of all your like roles, which one did you think like you should have been nominated for? And he was like, I thought Dracula was pretty good. And I'm
He
like,
was great in
yes,
Dracula.
same,
I
yes, yes.
mean, if you don't know who Gary Oldman, and this is why he's underrated, because if you're having to Google who he is, because it's one of those things
I
where his
hope not.
name, I feel like his name is not like,
Hmm.
because I also think Johnny Depp is also underrated, even though he's
Hmm.
such a superstar. So it's kind of
Hmm.
hard to say you're underrated because everyone loves you because you're
Hmm.
really handsome. But as an actor, he's done so many different things and been so many different characters and really not been like the leading man,
Hmm.
just the heartthrob that everybody expected him to be. But
Hmm.
Gary Oldman has played such different characters as well. But Dracula, it's like it takes a lot to wear that wig
Hmm.
and be believable. Let's
Yeah.
just say that when he opens up the door, and Stephen Colbert just did an interview with him, which you guys please look this up if you're listening. Go on Instagram, look up Stephen Colbert. He
Hmm.
did an interview with him where he inserts fart sounds into Gary Oldman's best scenes, and it's freaking hilarious. It is the funniest thing I've seen. I just watched it this morning and I was like howling. In fact, I want to watch it again when we're done. But Gary Oldman, it's just he's so good. And so you see these little clips, but then there's fart sounds in them.
Hmm. I
But
need to
you
look it
realize
up.
how so dumb. It's so dumb. And I kept looking at it being like, I love Stephen Colbert. Thank you for
Hmm.
the laugh.
Hmm.
Yes.
No, again, that's a great choice. Like he is like that kind of like chameleon of an actor where he doesn't play the same role twice. Like he always
Yeah, he
commits,
doesn't.
gives you something new every single performance. And I was so happy when he finally won that Oscar for playing Winston Churchill.
Yeah, it's
And again,
brilliant.
talk about makeup, playing in a heavy makeup, like where many people didn't believe that it was Gary Oldman.
I know.
because
No,
it didn't
that's
look like him at all.
that is what to me I love about acting is the and I haven't had a chance to do it like that, but the
Hmm.
metamorphosis of it is
Hmm.
the really diving into it. And I just yeah, I think that he is just underrated. I think
Hmm.
but also, maybe he likes it that way. He gets to still play all the great characters and doesn't have to be, paparazzi'd. He
Yeah,
can be under an awning with me in Central Park and nobody's attacking him. I would have
correct.
attacked I would have attacked Johnny Depp. I was single at the time, so maybe
Fair.
he was too. I don't know. Okay.
Well, it's not like it would stop him, like, sometimes, like, hey.
Oh God, I know. Well, what's unfortunate about Johnny Depp is that I have worked with some people who have worked with him like in the crew and
Hmm.
they're like, "Oh, never meet him. He's, he smokes a bunch. He smells
Hmm.
like smoke and he's a
Mm.
womanizer." And I was like, "Of course he is. He's Johnny Depp." So it's just this like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
this movie star above
I,
me.
it's like never meet your heroes, but sometimes you're like very curious to meet them. But sometimes it's like, no, that's why they say
Just,
never meet them.
role play Baby and Johnny with my husband who looks like Johnny Depp. So that's the Johnny that I get. And I'm
Best
very
of
happy with
both
him.
worlds. That's a great compromise, I think,
It's the
for you.
best of
For
both
you.
worlds. Trust me.
For the rest
It's
of
the
us,
best.
like, for the rest of us, it doesn't work that well, but for you, that works beautifully. And that's what we like.
That's yes. Everyone's gonna look up my husband's picture on Google and be like, "Yes, he does look like Johnny Depp. Lucky her.
I
Good
need to
on
look it.
you.
I need to look it up right after this because, like, I'm very curious. So, who do
Good
you
on
think?
you."
Thank you. Who do you think is the most underrated actress we have right now?
So I'll tell you, I just actually
Hmm.
saw the scene that she did in a movie that again is a movie you can only see once because then you know the secret of the movie and then the movie's
Hmm.
different, which is The Sixth Sense.
Oh yeah.
And this scene, Toni Collette is the
Mm.
actress. The scene in the car, if you know what
Hmm.
I'm talking about, when he finally tells his mom
Hmm.
that he sees dead people. And the the way she play it gives me the chills just thinking about it. The way she plays this when he, and I a spoiler alert again if you haven't seen this movie, but the bumblebee pendant and she just likes it talking about, and then she saw her dance when she was 6. Things that this kid would, her kid would have never known and
Hmm.
she is just this shock and the whole movie the way she acts and her acting is so brilliant and then she I mean there's so many things that she is so good at in so many movies but the Sixth Sense for me I just constantly go back to that as a lesson in acting
Hmm.
and I go my God, Toni Collette is just brilliant. And also another person who like people are like who,
Hmm.
you might have to look it up. I don't think she has an Oscar. I don't even think she has a
Nope.
nomination. I have no idea.
I
Yeah.
was just gonna bring it up. That's one of the favorite talking points of all our us movie people. How she was not nominated for the movie Hereditary, because
Yes.
what she does, I don't know if you've managed to watch that one,
I
but
need to see it again.
what she does in that movie, in that
Yeah.
horror movie, and
Yeah.
Academy famously now it's starting to warm up to horror like a tiny bit, but like
I know it's going to be
back, I know,
such a hard nut to crack that horror
yep.
film Oscars, but yes.
But not like in a, her what she does in that movie and like in a, in the Sixth Sense, like that's why I'm very happy about her kind of like renaissance, like where I genuinely believe Hereditary put her back kind of in a map when after that she did Knives Out and all those great movies, and she is phenomenal, and the fact
She's
she wasn't
phenomenal.
nominated like for that, for especially for Hereditary, I'm like, that's insane,
It's
genuinely,
insane.
like.
And when you go to going all the way back in this interview talking about you don't need to have an award to know that you're great. There are
Yeah.
so many great actors and actresses who have no awards at all.
Hmm.
And then there's some that have EGOTs. They've got the Emmy, the Grammy, the Oscar, the Tony, like
Yeah. Yeah.
Viola Davis.
Hmm.
They're both amazing. It's just that it happened to be the right year, the right role, all that stuff has to line up. And it's
Hmm.
very, very hard to kind of wrap your brain around it. But yes, she is incredible. And I go back and I watch, and I want to watch more of her stuff just because she's always so good.
Yes. No,
She's
100%.
consistently good, just like Gary Oldman, always good in everything they do. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, I'll watch this because they're in it,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm. No,
Yeah.
100%. 100% agreed.
Yeah.
Who do you think is the most underrated director we have right now?
This I'm going to blanket category because
Hmm.
I'm going to say any woman because I really feel like there's not enough women directors. And I feel like the pendulum needs to swing back.
Hmm.
So I'll mention, Catherine Bigelow, Anna Dervinier, I'm going to say that wrong, Gina Prince Blythewood. I'm going to say anyone who's a woman director. And I know that's being very um, pride, I guess you could say. But I just feel like in film, especially, there's just not enough of them. So I think
Hmm.
they're really underrated, just women in general. And I'm not saying all women are going to be
Hmm.
great directors,
Hmm.
but give them more of a chance. That's my
Hmm.
take on it.
I was see like so you've mentioned this before that you haven't seen the Demi Moore movie The Substance from last year.
Yeah, I
That
haven't
was
seen it yet.
directed by Coralie Ferget. I think
Okay.
that's how you pronounce her name. She's French. I don't know. Never took French lessons. So sorry, French people. But I was so happy. That's, by the way, my favorite movie of last year, The Substance. I love
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
a big part of that was her direction. Like I remember seeing it in September, long before any Oscar talk.
Hmm.
I said to my friend when we went to see it in the cinema, and when it finished, I was like, I know this will never happen, but in a just world, she would have
Hmm.
received at least a nomination for like a best director because like
That's
what
amazing.
she
Yeah.
does, and it was so fucking awesome. And then
Yeah.
when her name actually popped up as the best director, I was like, yes, I was so fucking like I knew that she's not gonna win, but I was like, it's so fucking good for her to be nominated to at least get her name out there. And
Yeah.
for the movie to like very little budget because it is still kind of independent movie even though it has Demi Moore in it. So like and it's direct like sure some people will not like everything this movie is going for. For
Yeah.
some people it'll be too gory, fair, but it makes you the way it makes you feel certain things. I predict this will become a cult classic like 10, 15 years from now. Like this will be one of those I seen this in a cinema. It was fucking awesome.
Yeah. Yes, and I cannot wait to see it. I think I've heard so much about Demi Moore's performance, but I'm sure the entire film is
Hmm.
brilliant. And what women bring just a different vibe to things.
Yep.
They have a different perspective, and that's okay. And I feel like the more that we can open that up, the directorial role to women,
Hmm.
I think the better. So,
100%.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
would also vouch for her previous movie, Revenge. Also great. Simple
Okay,
revenge
see,
story. gr-
yeah.
Both great. Like,
And
honestly, like,
I bet you and I don't know how old she is, but she's probably been kicking around for a while. And this is her first big
yep.
break. You know what I mean? That's kind of what happens with women directors. They're like, we've been
Hmm.
around for a long time. It's just nobody's given us a movie. So
Yep.
you know, that's awesome. I think that's right. I'm going to go. I have a lot of homework to do, clearly.
And again, like, it's a great movie. Both of them great movies, but a substance to me, future, like, that's future, like, cult classic that's just waiting to happen. And, like,
Yeah.
both also Demi Moore, but also Margaret Qualley, phenomenal. And both of them great in that movie. Great.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
I know the next one is might be difficult because there's so many movies, but do you have one or two you would like to shout out as underrated?
I'm gonna do it's a strange choice because I didn't see it when it came out because it
Hmm.
was, and I feel like maybe this is why this movie did maybe not do so well. I don't know. I didn't actually look up how it did box office wise, which
Hmm.
I never gauge as like that's the make of a good movie
Hmm.
because people sometimes don't know what's good. No offense. But I feel like it was too soon for them
Hmm.
to do this movie. I think it was like 5 years after 9/11, which is
Oh.
the movie United 93. And it's a
Oh.
documentary style movie. I living in New York at the time, I feel like it's so underrated. I went back and watched it. It's been over 20 years now. So I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, I still can't really it's such a traumatic moment in New York and for New Yorkers and for the country and the world, really. It's not just us, but if you were there during that time, it's hard to remember all that stuff. So I say that because they released it and they did it so soon after. And I think about movies like Platoon that are really, really hard for veterans to watch. They didn't come out for decades after
Hmm.
Vietnam was over.
Hmm.
This is the same thing. So I feel like this movie kind of came and went. It was like, And I don't know if you've seen it, but
I have, yeah.
I
Great
feel like
one.
yeah, I feel like it's a great movie. I feel like it's really well depicted in such a horrific way. And it's underrated for the fact that I feel like it was too soon.
And what I've always struggled with, like as you say, like it fell through the cracks, but it's Paul
Mhm.
Greengrass. Like it's literally in the middle of him making the Bourne trilogy, or like finishing
No.
Bourne trilogy.
Yeah,
And
it was all great people, you know.
yeah, and the fact that he chose purposefully, basically, not actors, but less famous actors to portray those roles, to like put you
Hmm.
in that documentary space is like great, honestly.
Yeah, because
So
you're really not kind of blocked by the fact that you're seeing someone famous. And I think
yes,
that's important when you're doing something that the famous people aren't the focus. The focus is this event, right?
yeah,
And so if you haven't seen it and now that it's been over 20 years,
hmm
watching it and really getting a feeling of what it must have been like on that plane and what it must have been like in the
hmm
world. It's a really good, historical documentation. Like it feels like a historical
it feels like a
documentary.
documentary. Yes, it does feel
It
like that
really
because it
does.
just feels so authentic. It just feels like,
Yeah.
oh damn, there's like
It's
actual camera on that plane.
That's why I said it's too hard to watch
Yep.
when it came out. It came out in like yeah, again, like 5 years after. We're like,
Yeah,
"Oh my God.
2006.
No, no,
Yeah,
no. We haven't even taken a breath yet. So this
correct.
is too soon."
100%. But a great
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And do you have any TV shows you would like to shout out as underrated?
I watched a show
Hmm
called Pushing Daisies.
Oh,
And
nice.
I don't know if you remember that show. I thought the actors were really great on it.
hmm
It just is a fun, it got canceled in 2007. The writer's strike happened. I
hmm
remember I was
hmm
on TV at the time. And I actually, my character, another underrated TV show, I feel like is Boston Legal that I was on. It's got a kind of a cult following, but it's a
hmm
really fun show. Um, and I was supposed to have a longer arc. My character was supposed to come back and be kind of with Candice Bergen, and the writer's strike happened, and
hmm
which was necessary, but it did have an effect on that storyline and also this show. But Pushing Daisies and with everything on streaming, I think you can find it still. I just thought it was great. I used to watch it. I thought the acting was great. I thought, and it's kind of a strange way of saying, but like the wardrobe was great, the
hmm
colors of it, it was the subject matter. So yeah, I don't know. That was my first thought was Pushing Daisies or Boston Legal.
Okay. I have never like I've heard of both. I have never seen like I've seen Boston Legal like one or two episodes, I think. And
Okay.
I still haven't watched Pushing Daisies, but funny enough, I've always heard about it, how great it was, and how such a shame it was canceled too soon. So like
Yeah.
right, like what are you saying? Exactly, like what are you saying? So like I feel like I'm almost now too curious to go back and like actually give that a shot because it's only like 13 episodes or something like that, like the
Yeah, it
Pushing
wasn't on
Daisies.
very long. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's only one season. But Boston Legal is many seasons. So that
I,
that I wouldn't
I
say it was
know.
so underrated. It was just more underground.
hmm
And, it was funny when I was on that show, my character was so goofy and stuff. I did have people, it was the first time I ever was I had a fan. Like I was in St. Louis sitting out at a
hmm
cafe and somebody said, "Oh my gosh, it's Missy from Boston Legal." And I'd never experienced that feeling of having somebody recognize me
hmm
out in the wild, if you will. And so, it does have a cult following in that regard. And it's James Spader and, oh my gosh, why am I forgetting his name? He was Captain Kirk, the
William
original
Shatner.
Captain Kirk. William Shatner. Yes, of
Yes.
course. William Shatner and James Spader. So,
hmm
they're hilarious together. So they're the, central
hmm
figures, but there's Candice Bergen and Julie Bowen and a lot of brilliant, brilliant guest actors that come in, including
And you.
myself.
I was gonna say, and you. So
Brilliant guest actors.
we have
Hashtag
that.
me. Yeah. No, I'm kidding.
Hashtag myself.
No, I actually know. My first scene I ever, if you do go watch Boston Legal, the
hmm
first scene, it was not in order, but the first scene that I ever filmed on film was when I'm running in with I have a bridesmaid's dress
hmm
on my arm and I'm knocking on the glass of Candice Bergen's office.
hmm
And I'm just so excited. And I was loaded on coffee. Like I had so much coffee, I didn't know what to do with myself, which fit the character because the character was very excited. But that scene that I did with her was the first time I was ever filmed any scene on television ever. And if you watch my face, I look at myself, go, oh my gosh, calm down, breathe, because I look so crazy. But thankfully, the character was a little like, oh my God, too excited. So it was perfect.
I
But
was gonna say, so
man,
it wasn't like you were like, too nervous. You were method acting, okay? It's
I was
called,
method acting.
yes, you're so
That's what I
method.
should have said. I was method acting. No, I was really nervous and
Hmm.
really crazy. And I was doing a show at the Pantages Theater in Los Angeles at the time. So I was dancing a show
Hmm.
called White Christmas based on the movie.
Nice.
And then I was waking up at 4 in the morning to go film at Manhattan
Wow.
Beach, which is far away. So I was really tired and I was really amped up on coffee. So
Uh,
yes, that was my
sounds
method acting.
that sounds like yeah, that sounds like with tire one. Yeah, like that's and wow, like okay, so Mary, this has been a blast. I could do this for like another 4 hours because honestly, you're such a
I know. We've been having so much fun. I'll have to come back.
yeah, you're such a like a interesting person to talk to, and obviously with all your experience, like you met this person, like oh yeah, by the way, I chilled with Gary Oldman did one time. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, of course he did. Like, duh.
You sound like my youngest kid, so I we they watch or they're watching the show Young Sheldon, which I don't know
Hmm.
if you know that show.
Yeah. Hmm.
Randomly in this episode they're watching this morning, a couple people that I'd worked with
Hmm.
were on the show as characters on the show, but I know them as actors. And I'm having coffee and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my friend Richard Kind. So
Hmm.
he's an actor who's the voice of
Oh,
Bing Bong.
yeah,
Who's your friend who likes to play
yeah, yeah.
Bing Bong? So he was on there and I was like, that's my friend. And my youngest, my youngest, who's 9, he goes, Mom, I know, you know everybody who's on television. I'm like, no, I don't. I just was saying that's my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to my coffee. Like he just totally schooled me.
Hmm.
Really
But
funny.
they will grow to learn to appreciate it, I think. Like give them a couple of years.
I guess. Or they're gonna be like, oh my God, there's my mom in her old rocking chair talking about all the people she knows.
And it's
From
gonna be like the meme. Okay, 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 mom. Let's put you in bed. Like okay, okay, it's fine. We
yes,
heard
mom,
it.
we know that you kissed we know that you kissed Tom Selleck. Okay, get it. We get it. Okay.
No, but honestly, this has been a blast. You've been
Yes.
kind enough and patient enough that you've answered all of my questions. So thank you for that.
You're
Before we say
welcome.
goodbye, do you have any question or two for me?
Oh gosh, that's gonna take a whole other podcast. I think when can I come to Scotland and hang out with you?
Anytime.
My whole family wants to come, so we're going to plan that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I just, I guess my last question would be, what is the moment that made you realize that you had to do this podcast um, and that you were a legitimate movie buff? Like that, has it always been something that you've
Mm-hmm.
loved and it's just like you just knew it out the womb?
The movie buff thing, yeah, I think I learned it quite early on because I don't know what it is about movies, but I've always been drawn to that.
Yeah,
So I knew early on, like I loved movies. So yeah, that's been ever since I was like 10, I would say 10, 11, when I was like, all right, this is gonna be my thing because I love it and I want to see all the movies ever made, which is, humble goal, but hey,
that's a big
man,
goal. I think you
man.
can do it.
Well, I don't think I can, but hey, man has to have a dream and aspirations, right? And like this podcast, like I've had an idea for this for like a year, before I started this, I mean, and I was stopping myself because I had this nagging voice in my head saying, does this world really need another white guy with a podcast? Because even then it was like all saturated. I'm like, really? Another one? Like, oh, okay, maybe. And then like I had
Imposter
a
syndrome. Yeah.
not even yeah, like yeah, but also like that's the other thing. Like, English is not my first language, so I'll make mistakes when I talk, and I'm like, who wants to listen to that? And then I started. I'm like, you know what? Hey, I'll try it. If it goes to shit, it goes to shit. I've tried, and it seems to be doing fine. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm happy that again, like kind of like you, I'm very happy to talk to many different people from all over the world. Like mostly, you guys are Americans, so mostly Americans. But I had quite a few Australians here. I had, I would love to talk to people from all over the world. Like,
Yeah.
anybody can come here as long as you're a movie fan and like don't have any very radical views on like certain things. Feel free to go in. Like, like I would love to talk to people from area because I think like at its core, like art and movies connects us, right? And like
Yeah.
I can watch a movie about a struggling woman in this country I've never been to, but because of the movie language, I can relate to it, even though I'm not a struggling woman in this country, right? And it's the same thing the other way around. And to me, that's the kind of magic and how I always say I don't judge people for loving or disliking this movie or this movie. I don't care. I like to know why. If you love this
Yeah.
movie, tell me why. If you hate this movie that's like beloved, okay, tell me why. I don't agree with you, but tell me why, and let's try to figure it out. And that's
It
so
starts a conversation, and
yes.
I think that's what podcasting is,
Mm-hmm,
and that's where you are a lover of stories, you're a storyteller, and you also love to connect with people from all walks of life, and
mm-hmm,
that's where that you're following that passion, and that's why you have to do this podcast. That's why you're
mm-hmm,
doing this podcast,
mm-hmm,
is because the world needs your voice. And your voice, just like we'll talk about John Hughes, you're
mm-hmm,
one man, but your voice and your perspective on all the movies that you've absorbed
mm-hmm,
matters.
mm-hmm.
And so jump in and do it. That's what I say. And the old, when you're an old man in your rocking chair, will you be mad if you didn't do this podcast, which
Exactly. At
you're
least,
already
like,
doing it?
yeah, at least now I'm like, okay, I've tried, I'm doing it, so let's see if it goes someplace. If not, great. If it will, also great. Like, I'm happy.
Exactly.
And it's, yeah.
Exactly.
Any other questions?
I think that's it for now until I
All good?
come back. But
No,
I
all
got to
good.
tell you, this was a pleasure and so fun to talk about. And sometimes you forget what you know.
Hmm.
And with all these questions about, just it's just making me want to dive deep and sit in front of the television and watch or go to the movies and have popcorn and just dive in again. Even to the
Same.
some of the movies I've seen a
Hmm.
hundred times.
Same. No, honestly,
So yeah.
pleasure was all mine. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your energy. Honestly, great. Enjoyed it. If people also enjoyed it, where is the best way to follow you? Where would you send them?
I would send them to meredithpatterson.com, and
Mm-hmm.
that's two T's. That's my
Mm-hmm.
website. And there you can get connected to all social media. But if you're on Instagram, I'm on that the most, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's at Mayor Patterson, MER. Some of my friends call me Mayor. And I also have a production company, which I produce some live stuff as well as this podcast, as well as my books. And that's Mary Productions, which is my nickname. We talked about how my family calls me Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and all those links are at meredithpatterson.com. And I actually just Googled myself, which I don't recommend doing, no matter who you are. I
Yeah.
Googled myself this morning and it says I'm a public figure, which I think is hilarious. My
Hmm.
kids Googled me to see how much I was worth. It's
Okay.
totally wrong, by the way. If you
Yeah.
see that, it'd be like, wow, that's amazing. I didn't even know I was worth that much. But I thank you, whoever put that number
Hmm.
up there. But yes, if you if you Google me, Meredith Patterson, all those links will come up as well.
Yeah. So the links are real. The net worth is not so real. Okay, noted.
The net worth is real in my mind,
In our hearts and in our
in my
minds.
heart.
Yes. No, those links will be down below, so people can follow and click on those. So that's not a problem. For me, as always, In Movies Lost on Letterboxd, lostinmovies.co.uk is my website, and this podcast every other Friday. And as always, this podcast is part of SPDM Crew Media. Special shout out goes to Highflyer Creative for creating my logo. If you want to see what else is happening, visit highflyercreative.com. And until next time, bye bye.